It has been 1 month since the last heated Manga Wars battle that we had between Naruto and Oparts, and of course we know what the winner of that one was. And now we are back again, like we promised, with Yu-Yu Hakushou versus Bleach. And surprisingly, we have an anime special coming out. Which, no, we did not plan that accordingly. Let me just say that right now. We did not plan that accordingly. Because I had this whole thing set up, and then it was like a week or two later. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, Yu Yu Hakushou is getting an anime special. I'm like, huh, that's funny, actually. That's actually kind of funny. But enough about kind of on my side of things. Let me go ahead and introduce you guys to my fellow guests. First, we have the great Sparda3g.
Yo-ho, it's me, it is I, Sparda3g, and now coming back for another Manga Wars, or Series Wars, whatever you want to call it. And this was a pretty interesting topic. I mean, well, I don't want to spoil it. I just say it should be a very interesting one. So, it's good to be back again. And now I'll leave to the next guest.
Hello everyone, I am BlueStarSaber. Some of you may know me from my Tumblr and previous podcasts on the Naosaku, or as these guys like to call me, the Cursed Child.
Yes, that is still apply. Maybe not as lately because he hasn't been reading, so we're safe. We're safe.
We're safe. Well, except for one of the series that we're comparing it to.
Oh, and we also have a surprise guest.
My favorite guest. I was hoping he would show up because if he didn't show up, I would say this podcast might blow because BlueStarSaber is not the best guy out here.
No.
Okay, fine. I will accept Blue Star just because you told me.
Yes.
Be quiet, Arthur. Be quiet.
And if you guys are new, sorry, do you still want to say anything?
Oh no! That's just, I was just saying Artu's language is appalling.
That'll happen throughout the podcast, you guys. Let me just say that.
Just be aware of censor.
Yes, be aware of censor. I'm just saying, R2. Anyway, shut up. So, if you guys are new to Manga Wars, here's how the laydown is going to be. Basically, it's a compare and a contrast podcast series where we look at two series, see how they are, go from characters, go through arcs, go through endings, authors, and then have like a full roundabout and see which of the two is better. And that's generally the premise of the Manga Wars podcast. And for those of you guys who are coming back from the first one, enjoy, because this one's going to be interesting, to say the least. To start everything off, let us go ahead and start off with the summary similar to what we did last time. And I'll go ahead and do the summary for Yu Yu Hakusho while the Cursed Child is Bleach. Because, once again, he is responsible for that.
That makes a lot of sense. Oh, man.
Sure, my fault that every ongoing series gets ruined.
Well, let me see.
Don't let me start reading Gintama or Tokyo.
No.
It's
We're at the ending. Don't mess it up. I don't want no ass pull at the final second. Please don't.
Please.
Well, given the fact I hear that there's 5 chapters left, or
What?
No, that's a fake. I was gonna say rule. That's a fake news. Somebody lied to that person. I had to correct that person.
Everything against me is fake news. Sorry.
But no. The only fake news would be is that you're okay to read manga and make it better. That's the only fake news I got.
Yes, the only fake news. Anyway, so the synopsis of Yu Yu Hakusho. One fateful day, Yusuke Urameshi, a 14-year-old delinquent with a dim future, gets a miraculous change to turn it all around when he throws himself in front of a moving car to save a young boy. His ultimate sacrifice is so out of character that the authorities of Spirit Realm are not yet prepared to let him pass on. Kwenma, heir to the throne of the Spirit Realm, offers Yusuke an opportunity to regain his life through completion of a series of tasks. With the guidance of the death god Botan. He is to thwart evil presences on Earth as a spirit detective. To help on his venture, Yusuke enlists ex-rival Kazuma Kuwabara and 2 other demons, Hiei and Kurama, who will have criminal pasts. Together, they train and battle against enemies who would threaten humanity's very existence. And that's basically the premise of Yu Yu Hakusho in a nutshell.
Alright, do I now start the Bleach one?
Yes.
Okay. The story of Bleach, that of Ichigo Kurosaki, a high school student with an orange hair and a punk-ass attitude, going around beating up a bunch of jackasses and all that stuff. But there's something unusual about this boy, for he has the ability to see spirits. During one night at his family's, the Soul Reaper Rukia Kuchiki, or Shimigami, depending on which version you're listening to, enters his home, in which he introduces to a whole nother world as a monstrous spirit attacks his family. Let's see, Rukia is forced to give Ichigo her powers in order to save the day, and he becomes, for a while, a substitute Soul Reaper, as he battles monsters throughout his town. During these bits, he is joined by his friends Orihime Ino, a sort of shy but spunky girl who has a crush on him. Sado Chad, the quiet, tall, and strong, silent type Chad, who has the ability to pummel monsters with his mighty arm. And Uryo Ishida, a Quincy with the ability to destroy hollows that were all but wiped out by the Soul Reapers. Along with them is also the mysterious Kisuke Urahara, the talking black cat Yurichi, and soon to join Rukia's brother Byakuga and her childhood friend Renji, who take her away, as the friends journey to rescue her from the Soul Society. But it's not as it seems, there's a great conspiracy. Join Ichigo and his friends as they battle ancient societies and mighty demon monsters in this epic tale that is Bleach. How's that?
That was very good. I'm not gonna lie, that was actually very good. In fact, I think it was better than what you did the first time. Even R2.
Thank you. Thank you, R2.
In a very foul language-esque manner, I should say.
Hey!
See?
Foul mouth.
So yeah, that is the spoiler-free zone for both of these series. If you guys haven't checked out any of them, these are both legendary series. You're living under a rock for both of them. So, do yourselves a favor if you haven't seen both of these.
I believe King of Lightning even said that Yu Yu Hakusho is better than Dragon Ball. So
yeah, that's actually kind of factual too. At least to me. Watch those. Read those. Whatever helps you guys. Then come back to this.
That's a lie.
That's a lie.
Why would anybody waste their time with the first series?
I don't know.
Wait, what we're comparing to right now?
Right now, well, that's what I'm about to get into. So right now, we're gonna go into the characters, specifically the main protagonists, Yusuke Urameshi and Ichigo Kurosaki. And just like last time, I'm gonna open up the door to my fellow guests and then get their thoughts on the matter. From there, I'll come in and give out my thoughts. So I'll open the door to Blue Star.
Well, like I said, Ichigo is, of course, a punk-ass kid who gets into fights and who can see spirits. And he's not really like what you would, during the age of, let's see, the big three, of course, we usually got like the dumb protagonist, all that stuff. Although Ichigo could be considered kind of dumb in some cases, he's actually not quite like most of the protagonists during this era and stuff. While most of them were kind of poorly educated and kind of dumb, he's actually kind of somewhat smart, but he's just not, I suppose, completely, logic thinking kind of thing, I guess, if that's what I'm saying. In many ways, he starts off this journey as being reluctant because he just wants to live his life. But as he fights hollows and soul reapers and that stuff, he begins to learn more and more about how he's connected to this world, particularly how his mother died, the laws of the Soul Society, what they did to Uryo's people. And as time goes on, he becomes more and more accepting as his role as a substitute Shimigami. When his friend Rukia and benefactor has been taken, he vows to save her, in which he goes through an epic hero's kind of style journey along with his friends, battling quite many opponents, such as the third seat of the 11th Division, Ikaku, Renji Aburai, the lieutenant of the 6th Division, who is captained by Rukia's older adoptive brother, the ferocious and mighty Kenpachi, and finally taking on Byakuya Akutsuki herself before finding out that his real enemy is the, spoilers by the way, all-powerful Sosuke Aizen. And during this part of the Bleach story, it's quite good. It's really amazing of how he develops and grows. I mean, to accepting his role as a Shinigami and protecting his friends and stuff. Not to mention his growth in power and all that stuff is really good. Afterwards, it's a hit and miss with the Arrancar saga. Well, I would say it starts out well when he's fighting these new powerful opponents in Ukiura, the Espada Ukiura, and Grimmjow, who, oh, by the way, Arrancar's hollows with Shinigami powers, and the Espada are the top, by the way. Let's see, and they're all under command of Sosuke Aizen. During this time, he also discovers he has hollow powers, and is what they call a Visored, who get like hollow masks and stuff, where he meets these Shinigami who have similar powers to him. He is struggling to come to terms with it, but finally he decides to join them, or at least use them, in order to master these powers. Just as the training has happened, well, enough again, one of his friends is captured, and Hime, and he goes to save her along with his friends. For the most part, I'd say it went pretty well with like victories and defeats between, let's see, the Espada and Arrancars that he encountered during this time, and probably the pinnacle point of it was when it was his final rematch against Grimmjow, where he fails to defeat not just him, Ukiura, and then Aizen. After that, it seems like his development kind of goes a bit downhill. Let's see. Granted, he gets his butt whooped by Noritora, but that's mainly because he's still tired from the fight with Grimmjow and gets saved by Kenpachi. And then when he finally comes to confront Ukiura, while he's still nowhere near good enough to beat him, let's see, which of course leads to his Hollow awakening to beat him and stuff, which unfortunately ends the fight in the way he did not wish to end. Which leads him to go confront Sosuke Aizen, and while a lot has happened, it feels like it's kind of rushed. What he also learns is that his dad is a Soul Reaper, but granted, we learned this during the beginning of the Arrancar thing, by the way, and this explains why he has those powers and stuff. And when he comes to find and defeat Aizen, how he powers up to get there is kind of forced. But it did end on a bittersweet note with what he did to gain that power. He ended up losing it in the end. Of course, it then goes to a time skip, and Ichigo's back to square one, which I suppose perhaps maybe is the best thing you could probably done at the point. He's trying to live a normal life, all that stuff, just because he's got a future plan. But then these beings called the Fullbringers, who also what Chad is, offer him a chance to try and find a way to gain his Soul Reaper powers by the use of their Fullbringer abilities, but first he must master it. Of course, there's an opponent called Tsuyaniki, I can't remember the name, but it's a dude that can alter memories with his sword. Of course, it turns out they're all planning to try and steal his powers for themselves, and then just immediately Rukia then comes up and gives him back his Soul Reaper powers through the help of the other Shinigami by a plan by Kisuke Uehara. Back to Soul Reaper, and it's like back to the good old Ichigo Soul Reaping days. Then we move to the final saga, in which when he begins, he starts off quite well. He's battling these Arrancar and these Quincy's from the law, who turned out to still be alive, under the founder of the Quincy's himself, Jiraiya, where we learn a bit more about Ichigo's mother's past and how he connects to these stuff, all that stuff. And it's a bit kind of interesting. Okay, Ichigo has also Quincy powers. Let's see, he has all 4 of the main series powers, but anyway. And then he's taken to the soul by the Zero Squad, who guard the Soul King, to teach him to become more powerful, where he learns a bit more about his powers. And okay, promising stuff. But afterwards, he's kind of absent for most of the story. I mean, yeah, there's a few scenes where he's in the action, but it doesn't last long. And when he fights the final bad guy, it's just like really anticlimactic. Not to mention, it doesn't help that the big bad is extremely OP and stuff. And it doesn't seem like he could actually win and stuff, but hey. But also, we didn't feel like we get a full display of his powers, so yeah. And the series ends with him taking over his father's clinic and having a child with Orihime, who's also a Soul Reaper, which feels a bit weird, but alright, fine. Meanwhile, let's see. Yeah, so just getting to the R2, alright. Now, next, Our other character is Yusuke Urameshi. Like Ichigo, is a mid-school, well, actually he's mid-school soon, mid-school street punk who's causing nothing but trouble for his family and friends and teachers. Suddenly, he dies by trying to save a little boy from a car crash. Turns out he gets a visit from the Shimigami Botan, who says that you're not supposed to die here, the kid was going to be fine, you wasted your death for nothing. But due to his noble actions, despite the kind of persona he's supposed to be, they are giving him a chance with her boss Koenma. And after doing a few trials as a spirit, he is able to return to his body, but turns out he is now a spirit detective and must fight demons of all sorts to defend his world. As he progresses, he makes friends with Kuwabara. Let's see the two demons, Kurama and Hiei, which I believe Lucky Chi has mentioned. And as he gets into the role of Spirit Hunter, he also gets a master in the form of Genkai. And he deals with dark conspiracies and deep trials, in which he is set up against by Toguro, which involves doing a dark tournament where his team are the underdogs and they struggle through and through. The development and maturity of Yusuke is quite good in this, particularly when he must accept the responsibilities that he goes. And then later, after the whole tournament, when he has to confront the psychics, we're led by Susui, is it? Yeah, it's Susui, right? Where he deals with the complexities of human nature and demons themselves. During this time, he discovers that he is the descendant of an all-powerful demon within the spirit realm, one of the three kings of the demons, and where he awakens his demon power, becoming a demon of sorts, which of course interferes with his final fight with Suisui, when he feels like Ichigo, he did not win the fight as he wanted. Let's see, which of course leads him to question who he is and where he goes. The advice from the first spirit detective, from the aids of his father, he goes to the demon world to learn and to kick his father's butt because he feels cheated. Meanwhile, he learns why his father does not eat humans and comes to respect his father and what he was trying to do. And taking over his father's position, he does the unexpected. Instead of starting a whole new demon war, he proposes the one thing that Yusuke is best at, a fighting tournament in which all demons can participate. The winner becomes king. During this, he has helped demons change the way they live and all that stuff. Let's see, by fighting, and let's see, earning the respect of the other two rulers in an epic throwdown. And even though he did not win the tournament, his actions have forever changed the demon world for the better. When he finally returns to the world, he finally can be with the love of his life, Keiko. As for which I say the two characters are better, I'm going to have to go with Yusuke, because, well, I feel like, let's see, Ichigo, well, started off quite well, let's see, then he became a bit of a hit and miss, and then kind of became a bit absent in his whole story. And it doesn't feel like he really had any development or knew where he's going. While with Yusuke, he is, of course, the main focus of the entire series, through and through. Never really absent for too long, continues to develop and evolve his powers, and much more, even if it sometimes feels like the power of friendship, but it's not like fairy tale level. Not like fairy tale level of grown. It's nowhere near that, not at all. It's like, oh yeah, I'm psyched for this. Pretty much it's like a journey of who he wants to be, all that stuff, what he wants to do for his friends, for the demon world, what he wants in life. So when he finally returns to who he wants to be with in the end. In many ways, Yusuke is the punk protagonist you all want to read. And hopefully inspire in the future.
Unless you consider Slam Dunk as one. That's another guy too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I get to read Slam Dunk, by the way.
How dare you, Blue Star?
This is why we have a lot of good things before he shows up. And
hey, shut
hard to abuse. See?
Oh,
what do you have to say, Artu?
Kill the van. Kill the phony. Oh my goodness.
I think he's siding with Ichigo.
What? So it's a. I think he's malfunction.
Okay.
So we're talking about the whole protagonist thing, right?
Yeah, and the floorboard opens up to you now.
Right. Well, It's pretty much what Blue Star has said about Yusuke. Yeah, it was like I agree with a lot of things he just said. I mean, Yusuke. It's funny because when you think about it, while we was waiting for him to finish the series, he was actually watching the last episodes and including the final fight. And when the final fight happened, I remember that Yusuke actually questioned himself, like, what is he doing? What is his purpose? That's something that was Ichigo missing, and it didn't really, brought that up from
I
Ichigo.
forgot to comment one thing.
Sure.
There's also Yusuke also shows the frustration of no matter how many opponents he defeats, someone always stronger comes up and threatens the world. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, I mean, like,
you don't really see that because most of them are like, yeah, stronger opponents. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, I want a good fight. the Goku logic.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, like, yeah, I mean, that's the thing about Yusuke. Like, he's a different protagonist. Again, he's not the usual I'm so stupid. Even if I am like a gangster looking or like a thuggish looking
or dim wet, like his Master Genkai says.
Yeah, right? I mean, like, yeah, he's an idiot when it comes to education stuff. I mean, you remember how when Kurabal failed the test, he was gonna fail again, and then he's like, aha, he failed. Look at that, he got the lowest score. I got like what, 2 points or more, and he's like, wow, okay, cool. But he's not.
At least I know I'm more educated than Yusuke.
Right. So. But the thing is, he's not really stupid, as in like, oh, what do you mean by, like something like, oh, what is chakra? It's like, no, it's chakra. Oh, my bad. It's like not that kind of stupid, or like, not the asta, anything like that. It's more like he's a delinquent, but he knows better. He knows better. He's actually a nice guy when you really know him. And from the course of the entire series, you don't see yourself hating on him because he's stupid, hating on him because he's being really evil, real rude, whatever. It's nothing like that. If anything, it come across like a perfect balance of a delinquent guy who has died and then come back to life, but with a lot of responsibility in a dark tournament and all that other stuff that comes to him. And throughout the entire story, it's always a different challenges. It's always a different parts that comes to him. It's not like the same ordeal. Like, wow, you challenged me. I'm going to save my friends again. I'm going to save my friends again. I'm going to protect my friends. There's always a different character arcs for him, for each different arcs. So that's it, and it differs differently a lot from each other. It makes the journey more worthwhile rather than like, oh, we have gone the redundant route or we have gone the cliche route. Instead, it's like, yeah, I like this type of story. Oh, I like this story too. I like that. I like this. And he has a relationship with, as in friends, as a, as a son, especially like the late arc with his father. And then, he even has a romantic relationship, which happens in the very beginning. Just get the ordeal out of the way. And, he's like cool with it. He's pretty much a guy. It's not like he has to be a trope, a single defined trope of a shonen protagonist, which is nothing wrong. But the thing is, Yusuke does stick out differently in a good way. And that's why I enjoy his character throughout the entire series. Now, with Ichigo, he had that. And because of that, he actually was like one of the case of being debated. Is he better than Naruto for the protagonist? And, a lot of people is like, oh, come on. Of course, Naruto's stupid. He's so cliche, blah, blah, blah. But, even in the early journey, Naruto did have a lot of highlighted moment that actually does stick out. But with Ichigo, he does challenge him because not only he doesn't really follow too much of that cliche, but it reminds everybody or people who have seen Yu Yu Hakusho, Yusuke. He's pretty much like another Yusuke, but a little different tweaks here and there. But it's good because it's something that we don't see that often. It's different because, the whole Ichigo journey isn't had to like he has to die. He's already seen the spirits, the hollows, and all that stuff, and everything just. The whole story of the boy meets girl, girl meets boy, life changes because of power sharing, boom. Everything was going well. You got the whole Soul Society. You got the whole Ichigo being appreciative of Rukia, giving him a purpose, giving him a power, the Shinigami, give him a reason to do something, to have a purpose in life. And that was going well over to Soul Society arc, even in the Winter War. That whole thing was going well because he has connections. And then he also have his own personal problems with the whole, his mom was killed by a hollow. And then when in the early arcs, in the very beginning, you see him dealing with that, but he didn't finish it. But it gives him more motivation to get stronger and to start protecting and start, not to have that regret of not able to protect again. And it was compelling. I was like drawn to his character. And then you got the Winter War, you got like a round 2 scenario, and everything was dealt with. A lot of that's and that's where the problem lies in. A lot of good parts were dealt in the Winter War, and it felt like it could have ended there, but it didn't. So instead, we got 2 more arcs. One is just pretty much him trying to get his power back, and the other arc is pretty much something that he could have avoided. And the only reason he got tie in is because his mother is actually a Quincy, and because of that makes him relevant, so to say. But that's the only thing they have to draw in, and it doesn't really reflect too much of that because, again, his mom, was killed by a hollow, by somebody else, and the only responsibility that guy had, the final boss, was just, I took her power right on that very precise time, which is kind of far-fetched, but whatever. And we don't get too much of Ichigo anymore because there's really not much to cover. When, if anything, the Fullbring arc, say what you want being the worst arc of the series, it was the final definitive character development that we ever gotten from Ichigo. Sure, we get some of that in the midway of the war arc, the final war, the 1,000-year war arc, but it happens at the middle, and it was more a reflection on the flashback. It's more a reflection on the origin of his parents, more so than him. It's kind of like with the whole Kushina and Minato from Naruto. It's like you got that flashback. It helps Naruto a little bit, but it's hard to consider the development. But the point is, you got the origin, and that's nice. Now after that, it's all about Jesus Christ. He has risen again and stuff like that. For Bleach, Ichigo, it's all about everyone else but him. At the very end, at least. And the last arc was so long, we almost forgot Ichigo exists. We forgot Ichigo even entered the war. We practically forgot what's his reason. He didn't have that much reason. He didn't have any character arc in there. There's no reflection coming from him. There's nothing that sticks out differently. There's nothing that says like, I'm here for this real reasonable reason. And it doesn't, and nobody even like put him over, even if it's like, could be a redundant scenario from a lot of shonen or a lot of series in general. It's still effective because at least you saying that the protagonist has a lot of meaning to these friends, whether they're because of personal reasons or it's because he has saved them so many times. Like Yusuke. Everybody trusts Yusuke because he's a well-known guy. He's a friendly guy. He's a guy that likes to fight, that will fight you, whatever. But they always gonna remember like more than just that. They always reflect him, and they always can trust him because he is that strong. They know his willpower. So with the final arc for Bleach, nobody really reflect on Ichigo when you think about it. Nobody's like, if he's gonna be the one, if this big final boss is gonna be taken out, it'll be Ichigo. Why? Because I remember how he saved me. I remember how he changed me. I remember how he helped this person. I remember this and that and that. He's just there. And again, the last arc takes, I don't know if it takes like 1/3 of the entire series, but it's enough to say like, oh yeah, we have a protagonist before. And sure, it took a while to the end, which by the way, at the finale, he doesn't come off really that strong. He comes off very lucky. And that's not encouraging. Like it doesn't give you that much of a this guy is really good. Even if he do lose, he's still a strong guy, and I could really buy into that. But with Ichigo, it just got rushed, falter, and then I guess he just get a family, which I guess that should be rewarding enough, but I don't know. If I didn't feel anything much from him anymore, why should I even care? So
I know. I see.
yeah. So Yusuke, we always keep on focus that he's a protagonist, but it never either overstayed his welcome or it never really hammered in. Ichigo felt like he was forgotten. And I think that's the last thing he wants to do with a protagonist, being forgotten. So that's the end of my opinion.
So now we cut to me. And I actually have to agree with both of you on this, because even though I do like Ichigo as a character, but I'm not gonna lie and sit here and say, oh yeah, he's better than Yusuke, because he's not. Because much like what the points you guys mentioned, with Ichigo, because there is like a lot of similarities between him and Yusuke. You're kind of there to see, okay, what exactly is gonna happen with them? What's gonna be their journey? And it works for the most part, except the big difference with Yusuke and Ichigo is Yusuke is always the focus. We always see him with each arc. There's always a challenge, and it's always different. It's not repeating the same thing that occurred previously. There's always something new coming in for Yusuke to face, and that's kind of refreshing, actually. Whereas with Ichigo, you're kind of like, okay, because you go from the first arc to the Soul Society, and you're kind of like, all right, this works. And it's kind of like that in the Ronker saga, at least the first half. Up until when you get to the fake Court Car Town arc, and then it kind of gets a little redundant. And that arc in particular, I feel like if that had been the ending point for Ichigo's character arc, and for Bleach in general, I think that would have kind of been a little bit powerful, like, because he got his powers from Ryuki, and then towards the very end, his character arc ends with him losing his powers and him just living a normal life. I mean, it would have been tragic and it would have been kind of poetic. Not to say having the Fullbring arc isn't a bad idea.
And bittersweet, by the way. Sorry, just had to put that word in because you didn't say it.
Oh, no, it's all good. But Fullbring arc, for the most part, it's like, all right, so it's more about him getting his powers back. And it shows that, he's still relevant and he's still kind of growing as a character after the whole incident with the Aizen fight. So you're kind of curious as saying, how is he going to get his powers back? And you see that. I think from that point, it actually kind of worked. Then we get to the final arc, the 1,000-Year Blood War arc. And he is relevant for the most part, like what Sparda said, mainly due to his parents. And while that is true, we don't really see much from him, per se. There's not a lot from Ichigo where we get his purpose within the war arc, aside from, say, giving them like support, like giving the Soul Reapers support to fight off against Quincy's. That's about it. Like, as far as like him being there, it's like, so what else is there? Yes, you have the whole thing with him and his mom being a Quincy, but that's it. You don't really get much from Ichigo. As far as like him and the Quincy King goes outside of that, you could argue that him and Aizen have something, sure, but with Ichigo and the Quincy King, there's not really much. And not to mention, Ichigo kind of does disappear for a while in the final arc. Again, he's like there in the beginning of the final arc, and then he just disappears. And we focus on like other characters. Not to say that that's a bad thing, but when we do see him, it's like in these small little portions. And then we see him again like towards the end. And we have that whole conversation between him and the Quincy King. While it starts off okay, the end result of that fight is kind of unsatisfactory. And if anything, there was this whole setup between Ichigo's friends, and not Kisuke. Oh my god, I'm blanking on his name right now. Kyoraku. Yeah, there was that whole setup between his friends and Kyoraku about Ichigo possibly not leaving the Soul Society, him possibly staying there because his power is too great.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I remember that. But now
it just looked like the Bleach was trying to end on a bittersweet note again, where Ichigo has his powers back, all that stuff, but he can no longer return to his normal life and is stuck in the Soul Society. Or maybe
I was kind of thinking that, well, if that's what Ichigo's role is within this final arc, is ultimately him giving up his humanity and being within Soul Society, that actually was really intriguing. And I was kind of wondering, okay, if that's his role, I'm totally in for that. And thanks, R2. But Yeah, I was kind of wondering if that's kind of the direction of where we were going to go, and you kind of don't get that in the end. So, it kind of just makes it feel like, so then what was the whole point of that scene for Ichigo? Because you have it, like, all right, so this is what Ichigo's role is going to be. But it's kind of like, well, if he's going to be a human, then again, set up. Like, well, why is that there? And the fight itself with him and the Quincy King, again, starts off okay, but then got rushed, and it was very unsatisfying. Let me just say that right now. I mean, it's cool for him to see him run his father's clinic shop, but the one thing I will say that Ichigo and Yusuke both have is that they don't really have a definitive goal, which can work in a lot of ways. I think it worked better for Yusuke than it did for Ichigo, because after, at the very least, you could argue Aron Kurosaki or the Fullbring arc, but more so after Soul Society, it did kind of become pretty redundant with his character as far as like what he's trying to do. Because with Yusuke, it's always like new opportunities, new challenges. And I think from that aspect alone, I'll give it to Yusuke, because again, through those challenges, through those new threats, he does grow as a character. Whereas with Ichigo, you see it, but it kind of falls back into what he really is. And that's kind of where my stance is. So for main protagonists, I'll give it to Ichigo. Not Ichigo, Yusuke. Okay. Yeah, I will give it to Yusuke. Hey, it's okay to make mistakes, R2. It's okay to make mistakes. So now, from there, we can talk about the female characters, actually, at least the main protagonist ones. So from Yu Yu Hakusho, we have Botan and Keiko, and then from Bleach, we have Rukia and Orihime. And it's actually kind of funny, because I'll go ahead and give my thoughts on this real quick. For the female characters, they both kind of parallel to one another, except one's better than the other. Like for Bleach, the female protagonist, there's two of them. So you got Rukia and you got Orihime. Rukia is kind of the same character as Botan in a lot of ways. Well, same as far as like their roles go. Now, as far as their
Shimigami as well.
Yes, that. Though I can say that Rukia has a lot more to do in Bleach than Botan does. She's kind of integral to the story.
What a sneaky way not to have a landslide win.
Right? And then with Orihime and Keiko, they're both supposed to, I guess, represent like the love interest for both the main protagonists.
Granted, many do feel like with Orihime it's a bit forced in Bleach, depending on where you are in the shipping spectrum or where you are in the characters in general.
It kind of does, to be honest. It really kind of does. But Orihime is supposed to be represented as a fighter in many ways.
Fighter.
And the thing is,
her only ability
very
is
underutilized. She is very underutilized. Like with Keiko, like she's not even a fighter. She just gets kind of dragged into it, and she's there, yes, as a cheerleader, sure. But again, her whole purpose throughout the story is to be not only Ichigo's friend, but also to be like the lover in a sense. And from that aspect alone, Keiko was much better handled than Orihime was. Because as far as the romance aspect goes, it was kind of a done deal from the beginning, because you kind of know, okay, it's going to be Yusuke and Keiko. And by the end, you get that. With Ichigo, it's weird, because you're like, okay, so it's going to be Orihime. And then you get some people that are like, well, it's going to be Rukia. And you could kind of argue that Ichigo has more of a relation with Rukia than he does with Orihime, but that's just saying a lot. But
it would have been hilarious if Botan went with Yusuke by the end.
Yeah, right? It would have been
like, really now?
I mean, there was some of the, like the first saga did kind of tease the kind of thing like we'd see with Keiko saying, "Are you two a thing?" or that stuff, which both of them try to make clear. Say, no, it's not like that. It's not like that at all.
But see, I think it works that way though, because it's like, all right, it's like, okay, yeah, Togashi's kind of teasing with this whole thing, but with Bleach, it wasn't like a done deal. It was like, all right, so what, you know? So as far as female characters go, of course, I'd probably say Rukia overshadows Botan, but Keiko overshadows Orihime in that respect. So it's kind of 50-50, at least from that aspect alone. But now I'll open up the floorboard to you guys.
Well,
Who's start?
Oh, who's start?
Okay. Let's see. I guess it's because he's worried that I might copy For Life's opinion or something. Is that it, For Life?
No, it's more like mine's is straight to the point.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you can go if you like. You can go if you like.
All right, fine. Fair enough. Well, when it comes to like, let's see, the Shinigami guide kind of character, let's see, female guide kind of character, I'm gonna have to put Rukia over Botan, even though I think Botan has probably the more engaging personality in things.
That's true.
She's a lot more.
That's true.
She's got a lot more character to her and stuff. I kind of like, in some ways, prefer Rukia, not because of like personality and character and stuff, or well, not to say that she doesn't have one. I mean, she does. I mean, she's got quite the tsundere personality, though not the typical kind of one. But I think it's because you have a bit more details about her. There's just a lot more to her. There's just a bit more about her. I suppose more of a bit more of a full-fledged story to her and stuff. And then with Botan, well, Botan's more of a guide that appears now and then, and sometimes even narrates a bit of the story. Rukia herself kind of has a journey through like this orphan who was abandoned by her sister, who turned out to marry Byakuya, meets Rissy with her friend Renji, where they go have fun and stuff. And then after all their friends died, they get vowed to become Soul Reapers. So we're journeying to becoming adopted from the noble Kuchiki family, despite always being some distance between her and Byakuya due to his own conflicting issues with his family and with Rukia and her sister. Let's see. She's appointed to the 13th Division, where she meets this lieutenant who kind of looks like Ichigo, and it turns out that him and Ichigo are related, by the way, because his father's also from the same noble family, or former noble family now. Anyway, in which she forms a bond as this guy kind of is like a sort of teacher to her, who's like the lieutenant of the 13th Division, only to force to kill this said mentor, or even somewhat this person she admires. So then, go through finally getting a chance to go years later, finally getting a chance to go to the spirit world by herself, where she meets Ichigo, forms an unlikely bond with this substitute Soul Reaper, to bonding with the humans around her, realizing it cannot last. And when her past finally catches up to her in the forms of her brother and friend Renji, who is now a lieutenant under him, in order to save her friend Ichigo's life, she voluntarily goes and accepts her fate to whatever it may be, which of course is deemed as death blow. And is kind of hardened as she learns and struggles as Ichigo and his friends come to save her, as she does not want them to die and just does not want them to die for her, and just accept her and just let them and have them accept her fate. Whereas as she learns more about Ichigo's exploits and reasons why he's here, and why even some of his own, Renji wants to save her. She comes to accept that she needs to live before them and stuff, and also learns that she is unwittingly involved in a conspiracy with Sasuke Aizen, as Kisuke planted something in order to keep it out of Aizen's reach. Of course, that goes horribly wrong, but in the end, she's saved, particularly by her adopted brother, where she learns the truth about why she was adopted, why Byakuya's connected her through her dead sister, and if everything like that sorted out, she becomes a Soul Reaper again. And not to mention, when we first introduced to her new Soul Reaper powers, which are ice-based, she easily defeats one of the Oranka. Granted, she gets immediately knocked out by a Sparda that's going to fight Ichigo, but that's not the end of it. As soon as Orihime is kidnapped, she joins Ichigo and his friends, where she encounters one of the Sparda, who also comes with some of his own haunting demons, as he has devoured the hollow that killed, her lieutenant, who also has the abilities and the appearance of this Sparda, the 9th of Sparda, the only one to be a Gillion, which is like 3rd strongest hollow, by the way. type of hollow, but anyway, but yeah, who has absorbed Kayen's abilities, memories, and powers. And Rukia struggles to face due to her haunting past, but managed to overcome through it by remembering Kayen's words about the heart and stuff, and is able to do the striking blow to kill the Sparda. Then after a while, she's a bit absent from the plot, she does get a few things to do, such as taking on this like skull-based Aranka. It's more in the background, this kind of fight. Though granted, the anime gives her Sado and Renji a bit more into the fight, only for it to get finished by when the 10th of Sparda comes in and interrupts the fight, killing the skull dude, I believe. His fate has never been revealed, but I assume he's dead. And only then to find out this dude's the Zero Sparda. They get their butts beat. Ichigo quickly manages to save her from being deaf. And then it comes back to then a bit of stuff has passed. Ichigo's beaten Aizen and stuff. And, well, she has to say goodbye to Ichigo because he's, lost his powers now. And it's kind of bittersweet. And it seemed like perfect way to end the series if you're going to end it there. Of course, then we get a time skip. She comes back. She gives Ichigo his powers once more. With the help of the other Soul Reapers and by Kisuke's planning. And then she gets a quick fight against Rikaku, or I don't remember the Fullbringer's name. She looks kind of like Rukia, but has all these plushy kind of gun abilities. And collects all this cute stuff. Yeah, Ryuka. The fight kind of ends in a draw. I'm not sure. It's kind of weird how the fight ends, to be honest. And it didn't really feel in any way kind of satisfying, I guess. Then to the final arc, after everyone's getting a beat down by the Sparda, she suffers one of the most heavily, which also leads to her, Renji, and Byakuya, who should have probably died, by the way, at this point, anyway, but never mind. As they heal their powers at the Soul King's area and train by the Zero Division, and when she turns back, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention she's the lieutenant by the time skip. I forgot to mention that, which, yay, by the way. Then she comes to confront Quincy that should have killed her brother, but did not. Ends in an epic fight, and which has the ability to now perform Bankai. Afterwards, it's a bit absent again, but the story ends with her becoming a captain of the 13th Division, as the captain of the previous captain sadly dies in this arc, and she's married to Renji and they have a daughter. So in many ways, she's a bit absent in the plot at times. She at least has like a sort of character arc journey in it. And out of all the characters, I'd say of Bleach, she has the most complete. Bolton is a fun character, engaging, helps Yusuke throughout the plot and stuff. I will admit, has a lot less to do, but so I'll say Rukia wins this by more because she's not just like a guide and stuff. She's also got a bit of action herself. Thank you, Artu. Now, like with Losa Lucky Chi, I kind of agree with the whole Keiko and Orihime for being like respective. Orihime, well, okay, it's fine if she's. I suppose it doesn't really matter who Ichigo ends up with, to be honest, because it never really made a big deal with it, to be honest. But I kind of wish that Ichigo didn't get together with anyone, really. But never mind. Granted, I shipped both Ichirukia and Ichihime at different points in times, then just stopped caring. But anyway, Orihime, well, there's a lot going for Orihime, as she's got a best friend in Tatsuki. She's got a tragic backstory with her brother. And the development she gets with, like, Ichigo, Uyu, and Sado at the beginning and Rukia is not that bad. Unfortunately, and and it seems like besides when she's not really a combat, she has a bit of a combat role. She's more of the healer and the shield kind of girl, which is fine and stuff. But she's also gotten the ability to attack. And while she wins at least one fight in the series, as it goes on, the more and more her attack power seems kind of pointless, and you kind of want her to do something, even if it's just a support role, but it feels like she never really gets that, to be honest. I mean, I think people were expecting her to have a big moment in the Ichigo Ukiyo fight, but it's more just helpless damsel in distress kind of thing. I mean, she has a fun personality and all, but it just feels like a lot is missing from her. Now with Keiko, let's see, she's the love interest for Yusuke, which even Yusuke's a bit surprised at how much she is devastated by his death and stuff. They have a very fun dynamic. She's kind of like, I won't say she's not really she's kind of a mix of like the nice girl mixed with a little bit of tsundere. And she doesn't really have any fights and stuff, but the series makes it clear that that's not her role. She is to be the emotional support of Yusuke. In many ways, she helps drive Yusuke to do better and is essential for that part in the plot. Let's see. Well, it may be sometimes frustrating for people to get a female character with no action in shonen series. With the way they handle with like Keiko, it's perfectly fine with what's the role that she is, and has even some of the most strongest moments. Heck, she's even the one that helped complete the process of Yusuke coming back to life with a kiss. Sleeping Beauty in reverse, people. Oh, and Snow White, I guess. Fairy tales in reverse. Thank you, Artu. I'm done.
Okay, so that just opened up the floorboard to you, Sparta.
Here I thought we'd talk about the entire story. All right, so
Sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. All right. Yeah, that's pretty much what Lucky G has said. On one hand, in terms of combat people or the spiritual characters, aka Botan and Rukia, Rukia will have the most edge because, well, she fights. She gets development. She became one of the staple what is that word I'm looking for? Basically, she becomes one of those characters that's like, oh no, you gotta save me. That kind of trope, but that's fine because that's just an easy way to introduce everything and recount everything that the protagonist has shown you some of the dirty side, like I hate you too, stuff like that. But when it comes to the danger thing, you can see the good side. You can see each other as a best friends, besties, whatever you want to call each other. Maybe not romantic because reasons, but hey, besties. So yeah, that's the advantage, especially with Rukia does continue to fight after the arc is settled. So it's not like, okay, we could brush her aside next. So that it doesn't do that. Botan, you can't really hate her. It's like Bulma. You expect her to become a fighter, like go against Piccolo and stuff like that. No, what you see is what you get. So that's the same thing with Botan. What you see is what you get. She's never was made to be a fighter. She was made to be like an assist, advisors, whatever you want to call her. So that's her role, and she does fine for that. Rukia is more stand-up because of the battle, the characters, and she was pretty much of a more the secondary main character, the a la Sasuke position. Close, at least. But
Maybe it should have been what Sakura should have been.
Right, yeah most definitely.
Good way to put it.
Yeah, so now going to the other side, the more, I guess you could say the love interest side. Yeah, the Urihime stuff. Like, it's not about like, you hate this because the pairing that you chose was Rukia and she lost and you hate this. Boo hoo. Yeah, it's not about that. It's more of about the case how it's being dealt with. The fact that yeah, okay, I get it that the story was never have this romantic side of things except from Orihime, but what I'm saying is like there's no real development or real build up from the protagonist himself, and I get that. So when it comes to the very end and you just see the pairing happen, it's like, all right, fine, whatever. I respect that. I get that because it's not like, wow, we've been developing one pairing and then bam, the other one ended up winning, huh? It didn't go that way. Fine, I'll give him that. However, I don't like the fact that it slows down Orihime's character, or at least make her character to be a running gag for when it comes to romantic side, especially with the whole like, hey, if you dress this clothes, you can actually attract.
I really hated that moment.
Yeah, stuff like that, and it's like, I
was like, what the fuck are you saying?
So like with Keiko, it gets out of the way quick, and even if we don't see how to develop into love, we do know it, and we are easily convinced because how it is being said or how they're being shown, just a matter of an episode. And that was good enough. That was really good enough. And then, when it comes to them being in a relationship, it help us to care because, hey, at least that they're going to show us more bits from them as in a relationship. So instead of like, okay, you got them together and then you ignore it completely. They don't do that. And that's great because I like that kind of approach. If you're not going to show me how to develop into lovers, at least show me how they are as lovers. And I like that approach. So that goes to Keiko, no doubt. But if I'm going to choose one, I just going to give it edge just to Bleach, mainly because I'm more of a fan of a character that does a lot of things as a as a character in general. It doesn't have to be, oh, you just want that for female characters. I was like, well, yeah, but it can be said for anything. Could be said for guys, could be said for female as well. So there's no difference. I more like that approach. I mean, I don't mind what they do. Like, okay, again, Keiko is not made to be a fighter. I respect that. I respect all of that. I'm not saying like, oh, his flaw as a character is the female because look at how he positioned them. They could have been. It's like what I said. If you're going to introduce female characters into your story, let them do something. And if they don't do what they are tasked to do, then you should not do that in the first place. It's best. Again, there is no try. And I know I'm quoting from Star Wars, but it's true. Because I'm more annoyed when you try and you do a lot of bad things and in an insulting way, more so than like, well, you tried, but you could have done better. When you do it in an insulting way, it's actually more effective and it actually harms it than just minimize the damage. It harms it completely. So, but again, in both sides, they both doing their job. They both do good in their job. One is better than the other. One is like, they both do their part really well, but the other one is more just outshines it. Like Rukia part outshines Botan because she fights and she does this and that. But it's not to say Botan was bad because she does her job and it was good. Keiko and Orihime, again, Orihime was just slowed down. It's not insulting. It was just slowed down. It was like, couldn't have her a better approach with her character. Keiko, she's taken care of right away, and that's all we need. So, but yeah, I'm gonna just choose Bleach just because of that edge. Just that.
What do you think, Artu?
I'm gonna say, is that a yes?
I'm gonna say yes for that. I think you've done with Bleach on that one.
Language.
Jeez, I didn't expect this. Oh boy.
Sorry.
Let's go.
Sorry.
Next subject.
Well, I was going to add on to your point about the whole lovers thing. The other thing, and this is probably the only time I touched on the whole shipping thing, but I think it's also worth noting that in Yu Yu Hakusho, both Yusuke and Keiko actually do like each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get some pieces about how they kind of about their childhood friendship. And particularly with like Keiko's like one of the only few people that would actually approach Yusuke and stuff. Mm-hmm. The only other one was like Kuraba, but we'll get to that later. But anyway, and
also like throughout the story, like you also have like the characters kind of teasing Yusuke about Keiko. Bleach again with Ichigo, you don't really get that. So it's like, So now we cut to the secondary characters, and this time I'm gonna open it up to you guys again. So Blue Star. Your thoughts on the secondary characters from both Yu Yu Hakusho and Bleach?
Let's see. For the secondary characters on each side, I suppose we should describe them quickly. I should describe who they are quickly. On Bleach's side, you have Sada, who, like I said kind of earlier, actually I kind of said earlier, it was like a Mexican immigrant who comes to Japan and is pals with Ichigo as their two bros that pull their punches for each other. We see Uriel, the smart kid of the school, who was a long line of Quincy's and has a kind of a grudge at Soul Reapers at the beginning, but of course, and Renji, who is Rukia's best friend, growing up and stuff, and now the 6th Division's lieutenant. On Yu Yu Hakusho's side, you have Kuraba, the other punk in Yusuke's military school, who's always picking a fight and getting his butt whooped by Yusuke. That stuff. Let's see, and Kurama, the human who is sort of the reincarnation of the demon Yoko Kurama, who ended up going inside a human female who was pregnant at the time and became that child and stuff. And let's see, as he grew, he began to remember his demon life, but due to his humanity, became a force of good and stuff. And then there's Hiei, let's see, an exiled demon from this group of female ice women and stuff, who has fire abilities and an implanted third eye, who also has a twin sister, who originally starts off as a bad guy, but becomes a reluctant ally to Yusuke as the series progresses and stuff. Now, let's see, the only ones I can really compare with the two characters, to be honest, I believe would in truth be, let's see, Kurobara and Chad, to an extent, due to the fact that they're both, let's see, kind of, but like they're both like power of like Yusuke and Ichigo kind of thing, where from like the beginning of the series and stuff. Where Chad is more quiet, let's see, kind of like a gentle giant kind of character, while Kurobara is kind of like the loudmouth guy, who's kind of somewhat of a dumbass, but let's see, not as dumb as Yusuke in regards to his education. Let's see. Well, I suppose you could also compare Hiei and Uryu as reluctant allies at first, but anyway. Let's see. I have to admit, each of these characters have unique and interesting abilities in regards of their series of what they've established. I'm quite fond of Chad, particularly his friendship with Ichigo, how it happened, whereas Chad was vowed to never throw a fist for himself again after being a spoiled kid when he was younger.
What a lie that ended up being.
Okay, what? Okay, never mind. Where he was a bit of a spoiled kid after his parents died and he was forced to be with his grandpa picking fights until his grandpa eventually saved him. And afterwards he vowed to never throw punches again, which he ended up throwing punches to help Ichigo this one time, then later gets captured and stuff. Ichigo comes to his rescue, and the two agree to throw punches for each other, striking quite a beautiful... What? Oh, yeah. Let's see. Striking a rather beautiful bromance, which I wish was kind of explored more into Bleach, but getting to that later. And I have to admit, Chad is one of those characters I feel is very underappreciated. Particularly, I quite also like that he was one of the few shonen characters that was definitely not Japanese or whatever. Let's see, not Japanese and stuff. It was Mexican. It's something a bit you don't usually see in shonen. I'll be honest. Let's see. And he starts off kind of well, but unfortunately, he just ends up being a punching bag just to show how strong the bad guy is. That's not to say that he doesn't get his moments. I mean, he did take out a hollow or two at the beginning of the series when it was showing his new powers. Had a phony moment of defeating the 8th Division's 3rd seat, which was kind of funny. That was just a quick joke. But though he ends up, and even though he loses the fight against the 8th Division captain, it's still quite a well-done beat-down kind of fight. And the flashback with his friendship with Ichigo in there plays very well with that. And it's kind of sad how you want this guy to win, but he loses. Afterwards, when the Iran start invading and everyone gets their butts originally whipped, he starts training, particularly even has a few friendly spars with Renji and stuff. When he comes back, him and Uryu are much stronger. They take out a few Arankas, and then, like, the semi-Spardas or former Spardas. But after that, he gets his butt whipped again. And then, let's see, it looks like he's going to have a lot to do in the Fullbring arc, because that's where his abilities is revealed and origins of his abilities are. Unfortunately, he doesn't really get much. And the final arc, he doesn't really do anything. I mean, let's see, him and the let's see, I'm trying to remember his name. Let's see. Well, he's the younger brother of Kaien, I'm just going to say, who joins Ichigo and Co. during the Soul Society arc.
Oh, Ganju?
Ganju, yeah, I love Ganju, by the way, but let's see. They apparently fight these giant sand monsters, but that's off-screen. And then, at the end, he's just a boxer, which feels very weird to where his character goes. He's a character that had potential, but never went anywhere with it, unfortunately. And this ended up being the punching bag, sadly. With Kurobara, I have to admit, I was a bit surprised with this character. I thought it was just some random street punk that Yusuke fights, but then after when he dies, you see how upset he is, and I'm a bit shocked. I mean, wow. And it becomes and when you learn a bit more about him during, like, the first 5 prologues and stuff, I'm like, I like this guy. And then during like Yusuke's second case, turns out he has spirit abilities as he's taking part in like one of the mini tournament, of that arc, where he gets a sort of spirit sword, which kind of sounds like a lightsaber with the sound effects, I must say. Okay, yes. And we can talk about copyrights another day. But anyway, let's see. And then when he meets like the two demons that Ichigo met in this first case, let's see, we get the dynamics between them. He gets along well with Kurama. He's a bit more of a struggle. But let's see, the next case, it's fine with me. They each get a moment to shine, and I quite liked how Kuwabara, while he's the weakest, he still manages to pull through in the end and stuff with his fight and stuff. Let's see. Then next arc, let's see, him and Yusuke are once again on a separate case together, and there he finds the love of his life, Keiko, who turns out to be, let's see, Hiei's twin sister, which unfortunately yeah, sorry. My apologies. Sorry. I don't know what I was saying. I'm sorry. Okay, Archie, don't be that mean. Let's see. Anyway, but yeah, Yukina, which plays a massive part in Kuwabara's developments in future art, in the next arc, let's see. But yeah, it's quite a lot of fun. Okay. Then a dark tournament. I have to admit, I'm a little disappointed that Kuwabara is usually the one that got his butt kicked for most of his fights, but the two fights where he does win, particularly the one in the final match in the third round, it's up to him to save the day, even though he's completely weakened from like the previous fight, as it happened immediately before this one. When Yukina comes in, he's motivated and becomes strong and manages to beat the bad guy of that fight and stuff. And then when he's fighting like the Elder Toguro, learning the death of Genkai at the time, let's see. In many ways, I consider this his shining moment of the series as he kicks at the guy's ass. Well, that's buttocks. Excuse my language. Apologies to children out there. Shut up, Atu. Anyway, let's see. And then let's see the next arc. Let's see, his powers have disappeared for a while, but in the meantime, let's see. But it's revealed that his powers are carrying a shift, and he's getting more powerful and stuff. And he becomes a key essential in the bad guys' plot, but not before defeating one of the bad guys and able to help turn him to their side and stuff, which I'm all down with. Let's see, after when Yusuke is temporarily dead for a while, he becomes a bit more stronger as him and his friends fight, let's see, the main bad guy of that arc for a while before Yusuke arrives. Afterwards, in the final saga, he's just getting on with his life now. He's trying to get to a high school, which means he's absent for fighting this arc, much to my disappointment. But he manages to pass to high school, which I've just realized, my God, I think he's more educated than I am. Dear, Kuwabara's smarter than me. Oh, dear Lord. Let's see. Well, at least I'm smarter than Yusuke. Shut up, Artu. Let's see. But yeah. In many ways, Kuwabara, when it comes to Kuwabara and Chad, yeah, much better. I'm going to be a bit more shorter in this because I'm pretty sure For Life thinks I'm just going on and on and on here. Let's see.
That's impossible.
Well, I like Uryu and Renji. They have some like great fights in the series and stuff. They're kind of here and there at the times. Granted, I feel like Uryu is pretty much, out of all of Ichigo's human friends, he's the only one in terms of powers able to keep up with them and stuff. And he wins most of his fights. I think the highlight for him was his battle against the 12th Division captain and stuff. Though, granted, I never felt like that was properly concluded and stuff, but oh well. Let's see. How he loses his powers and regains them was quite good. Let's see, some of the fights against Iranka, his team up with Renji against the 8th of Sparda, and even taking some parts in like the Ichigo versus Ukiura fight, and even the one against the former substitute Solri in the next arc. When it comes to finding reveal more of his origins with his mother and stuff, and when it looks like he's siding with the Quincy's, it's all kind of rushed. I mean, it's not even, it doesn't really lead to much. I mean, even the final fight he gets is kind of interrupted because the big bad kills all his remaining allies just to make himself stronger. And while he does play one essential moment in the final fight, it just feels kind of rushed and forced. And then in the end, he ends up being a doctor like his own father, which is fine. But honestly, it doesn't feel satisfying at all. It's like Kubo didn't know where to go with this character and stuff. And it's kind of the same with Renji for a bit. I mean, Renji does kind of lose quite a bit of his fights. Not to say that he doesn't win. I mean, I suppose he's more balanced in terms of winning and losing his fights. And he's here and there. He's a fun character and stuff. Though granted, I feel like he never really got a proper conclusion, really. Granted, he did, show off his Bankai, his fully completed Bankai at the end of the series against the jokey character. But it feels like after the whole Soul Society arc, he didn't feel that essential and stuff. While with like Kurama and Hiei, even though they always, when they were needed in the arc, they always felt essential and important and stuff. They felt like they got, Kurama, from like a reluctantly forced into one of Hiei's schemes, though eventually turns because he's too much of a human in him. And his journey with helping Yusuke, battle demons and all that stuff into Dark Tournament, where his old powers come back, and even the old person of Yuko Kurama comes in now and then. As he journeys throughout the entire series, coming to terms with like doing stuff like forcing to defeat a human, even though it might kill him, all that stuff. Just struggling between the demon and the human within him and stuff. Who is he? Is he the human that he grows up with, or is he the demon and stuff? And it comes to his final fight in the series. Instead of winning it as Yoko Kurama, he is just his normal human form, and he's completed with the choices he's made. While Hiei is a demon that starts out trying to destroy humans, and even destroy the people that exiled him. Reluctantly, as time goes on, as he goes to help Yusuke fight other demons and stuff, rescuing his sister, even though he can never truly admit that he is her brother and stuff. Developing his powers, getting stronger and stronger, caring more about his friends. That when he has his final battle against one of the three kings in the final tournament stuff, he is able to concludes with his journey. He's able to let go of his anger and hate, and even and in many ways it's quite satisfying. It's in many ways he's kind of like a Sasuke in a way, but is able to let go of his anger and hatred at the end, kind of thing, in a sense. Yeah, that's all I've got to say. When it comes to characters, I would say Yu Yu Hakushou's supporting characters are much better because they feel like they have a proper beginning, middle, and end, and a conclusion. While the Bleach characters, they're here and there, and they didn't really feel like they ended in a satisfying way at all, to be honest. I'm done.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's my turn, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, pretty much a lot of things has been said by him, so I could cut down to the very short and piece of potatoes. Yeah, I would say that the Yu Yu Hakusho side characters are better because it's funny that in Bleach, they do showcase the side character a lot, but perhaps maybe too much. It's a weird factor because on one hand, yeah, they do get a focus, they do get their own volumes if you consider the final arc. However, sometimes it feels so little. I don't know. Maybe I don't. It's a weird feeling, or maybe it's just I'm kind of a little bit blurred on what exactly does it bring out from dealing like almost a volume length for one side character, if not two. But yeah, it's like maybe it could have been set in under 2 to 3 chapters, and boom, we got a character development, a really good one next, But instead, I'm asking myself, like, is their characters too much focus, or the character has little focus with a longer length? It's such a weird feeling. And with Yu Yu Hakusho, I didn't get that. I got what it is supposed to be doing. Just have them showcase, have them develop whenever their character arc is challenged. And then boom, you get a development and end of story. Yes, some character will be sidelined. Yes, character would not get their big shiny moment anymore because of one part or after another or something. You're still left with a good impression after they're dealt with. You're still left with the thing again, it's like what I said back. If you're going to use these characters, you got to make the best of them. You can't just say like, I'm using them because I don't know, your fans were wanting to see that guy, right? I got no character arc for him. I got nothing for him. I got no development for him. I got no fights. all I'm just doing is shutting you people up by having this person there. Boom. And if I wanted to develop, I'll probably just say something like, I wish I was stronger. Probably by the end of the arc. Boom. There. Development. I don't like that because it feels like you're just, you could have just easily said by not having them and not wasting their potential to be in the screen time in the first place. Now, with Bleach case, again, it's funny because they do get their screen time, but not only they slow down the pacing tremendously, but it feels like a lot of their developments could have been developed under 2 chapters, if not just 3. And that would have been the end of it. But instead, it got like at least 6 chapters. And a lot of things could have been said so quickly and briefly and far less exposition than it had in the final arc at the very least. Winter War arc is where it starts to show how focusing on these characters could slow down the pacing a lot. And it wasn't like that with Soul Society. Soul Society, everything got their time. Everyone got their character, their how they represent, who they are, what they do, what they seek for, everything, and it boiled down and under a volume. And that would be more than just 2 characters. I don't know where that Kubo went, but I wish it was more like that. Otherwise, I would say, yeah, maybe Kubo and Togashi's side characters are equally balanced, and they probably have something that's really debatable to say, okay, this one has had a better side character because this character, I like this type of character and stuff like that. Well, what about this one? He's better written. It could have been like that, but instead it's just like, yeah, the other one, so the side characters feels like they got a lot of focus in Bleach, but at the same time, no. It's a weird feeling. But another thing is that Bleach side characters, the human characters, get sidelined a lot. The only one they got lucky was Ishida, right? That's his name.
Yeah.
I don't want to be mistaken with the art. Okay. Yeah, the Queen.
I said that he was the only one that seemed to keep up with Ichigo in terms of power.
Right. Exactly. But that's only because his arc was next. But still, at least it's better than nothing. And again, when it comes to character focus, being rescued, at least Ishida is the only one that's like, yeah, I'm developed, I got powered up and stuff like that. And I do work. I do a little bit of work. Instead of like, help me, the damsel in distress disorders, or you know what I mean. So that's an upside. But when it comes to Orihime, she practically just saying, help me. Chad is practically like, okay, you see how strong I got? I got really strong. But you know how strong I got. Therefore, I'm going to take on the high level character, and you would know how strong that person is. And that's his purpose throughout the entire series. And it was just upsetting and disappointing and kind of laughable. With hold on a second.
Be patient, R2.
A lot of commotion going out there.
Yes.
Dogs are barking. What is it, mail time? Anyway, I'm sorry, guys. What I was saying. So, like, that's their trio, groups, whatever you want. Actually, group. It can't be a trio. That's more than 3. Yu Yu Hakusho, they have their group. Yusuke, Kuwabara, the works. You already know the guys. The 4 guys that works, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And they all get their shine. They all get their purpose. And the ending, they all got their final words. I guess we're considering the anime ending, but still. It's just more or less similar. But anyway, they still got their last words. They got the last bids. They got the last developments, and they got the closure. And it's something that fits their characters. We get to see them many times. Again, some will get sidelined, but still. When they shine, they really shine. And, Togashi is really good at that when it comes to like, okay, time to make this character a superstar. And he does that really well. With Bleach, it had that, but somewhere down the line, I don't know. It disappeared. I don't know what's going on. And the human character, it's fine to have Chad to be like, oh, I'm the power buffer for the next guy. But for the entire series, that seems demeaning. Or she has something, then she becomes a damsel, then she becomes somebody that would just get help, or that would just do some medic supply. Ishida, Quincy, well, he's the only one that gets most work. He's pretty much the Sasuke of the team. So, yeah. All I can say is the side character is more profound in Yu Yu Hakusho, while Bleach side characters are more disappointing, and you could have wished they would have been addressed better, But it is what it is, unfortunately. I'm done.
Okay.
Yes.
So that finally comes back to me now. And I think it's a no-brainer. I really think the side characters in Yu Yu Hakusho definitely are better than Bleach, because while Bleach, with its side characters are interesting and they have like cool introductions, they don't really get to develop that much as characters. Like, sure, you have like some bits with Orihime and her wanting to be a better character, sure, but you don't really see enough of that. And Chad's kind of the same thing, which is kind of sad because Chad had a lot of potential as a character. He had a lot early on in Bleach. And somewhere along the line, I think after Soul Society, I think it was after Soul Society, after that, he didn't really get too much of a focus. I mean, sure, Chad got his own arc via the Fullbring arc, but even then, like, not much happened with him. And I guess you could say Orihime's arc was kind of the Arrancar saga. But halfway through, it's like, once she saved, it's like, okay, just go back to being what I am. I mean, the only character within Bleach that kind of sticks out a lot, like what you guys said, is Uryu. Because Uryu, in many ways, can be considered like Hiei. Although, I will say, Uryu's side of things does get kind of rushed. A little last minute, if I might add, but it's still close enough to where, okay, at least Uryu has something. The other two, though, not too much. But with Yu Yu Hakusho, again, you have Kuwabara, who is kind of like Ichigo's rival in a sense, but so is Hiei. Kurama is more or less like, he's not really, I'm trying to figure out the best way to describe Kurama. I wouldn't say he's exactly like, I don't really care, but it's more like he knows what to do when the situation comes up. And not only that, but you also get to see them develop throughout the arcs. Like, again, Kurama going from the Spirit Detective Saga to the Dark Tournament to the Sensui arc, and ultimately his role in the Three Kings Saga. Like, you see them develop as characters. Because, again, Hiei was like, oh, like, you see him and you're like, okay, he's kind of like a dick. But, sure, and he's still kind of a dick. I'm not going to say that he isn't. But you do see these little seeds that are pushing towards him developing as a character. Same thing with Kurama. You're like, all right, so they're kind of both introduced as, like, criminals in a sense. But with Kurama, you see this very human side to him via his mom. And, again, that's shown throughout the story. And you also kind of get to see Kurama struggling through with his with his superior version, which was Yoko Kurama. And, again, with that alone, I think the side characters in Yu Yu Hakusho have a lot to do too. And yes, you could say Kuwabara does get shafted, but he gets shafted for probably a good reason. And that's, to showcase that he is going into high school and he's studying. So there's a reasonable excuse for why Kuwabara got shafted. For Chad and Orihime, it's like, well, what's their excuse? Like, it's like, because we're not relevant to the spot. No. Like, if stuff like that happens, you got to make sure, okay, what's the reason of not being there? And, again, just for that alone, I think Yu Yu Hakusho handled it much better with the side characters. So, for me, Yu Yu Hakusho. Now, let's get to the villains / the main antagonists. And for Bleach, we have Aizen, we have the Quincy King. There's somebody else too. I guess the Arrangers themselves are kind of villains too, for a small period of time. And for Yu Yu Hakusho, we have a lot of villains actually. Because we got Toguro, we got Sensui, we got Sakio, and we got Tarukane. I mean, they're kind of like minor villains. The two big ones that just stick out from Yu Yu Hakusho are Sensui and Toguro. So I'm going to open up the floorboard again to my fellow guests, once again to Blue Star.
Okay, let's see. The villains now, right?
Yes.
Alright, so I was just looking at some complaints about the latest Stars movie, but that's not what we're here for. Anyway, the villains. Let's see, I'm not sure. Should I count the Soul Reapers in the Soul Society arc as villains? Because they're not really villains, they're more of antagonists or what? I'm just wondering. That's just a quick question.
I wouldn't really say they're villains. I wouldn't really say that.
Okay. Well, let's see. There are quite a few. Let's see. Well, both art series have quite a variety of villains. I mean, let's see. At the beginning, it was Hollows for Bleach, for Ichigo. As for Yu-Yu Hakushou, it was just random demons. Then afterwards, let's see. In the next tournament, it was more organized crime mafia who were in control of demons fighting in a dark tournament for Yu Yu Hakusho. And well, they're not really villains. The Soul Society, for most part, were antagonists, with only a few of them actually being genuinely evil and stuff. And then Bleach, it's the Arankas under command of Sosuke Aizen. And then next arc, it's let's see, psychics for Yu Yu Hakusho, who are planning to open the demons and or to enter the human world and destroy them all. And then let's see, then the final two kind of groups of villains for Ichigo were the Fullbringers, humans with hollow powers, I guess. I guess that's what Fullbringers are in a sense. Let's see, and later Quincy's, while it went, let's see, Yu Yu Hakusho kind of building up like a demon freeway war, though it ends up being a friendly tournament in the end thing, so it's not really that. But I suppose the two villains for each series that kind of stands out is, for Bleach, it's Sosuke Aizen and Jura Buck. While for Yu Yu Hakusho, it's Toguro and Sensui. I must admit, I quite like. With the abilities, Toguro being a big, tough, muscular guy. But his younger brother, the younger Toguro, has sort of like a Parasite thing, which I'm assuming that Parasite series got the inspiration from this character alone. I have no doubt. I have somewhat wondered if that series was based off of that one character alone. It wouldn't surprise me, or that's where the inspiration came. But anyway, sorry. And then this sort of like dude with a mask. I'm trying. What is his name? The one that when he touches people, they explode. Is it Kurosaki? And Boo, the dude that holds a giant axe kind of thing. And the mastermind behind them is Sakio, who plans to open the demon well. I have to admit, let's see, I quite like how during like the previous arc, the Toguro brothers were kind of introduced as like the test Yusuke and his friends. And which they let them win, but it was all part of their bosses Sakio's plan to bankrupt one of his colleagues who he doesn't really give a dang about. And also increase his wealth by trillions, I believe, or something like that.
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, I don't remember the specific number, but the dude's a scum, particularly the way of how he treated Yukina and stuff, forcing her to cry and all that stuff just so he can make money from her glass tears. One thing I like about Team Toguro is how they build them up, particularly the younger Toguro, as this unbeatable force that Yusuke and his team will have to fight at the end. Each of their personalities is distinct. I particularly like how the younger Toguro, when asked for a drink, says, "I just like some apple juice." Particularly the rivalry that's being built up between Yusuke and Toguro as Sakio plans on opening the demon world, while younger Toguro just wants an all-out fight with Yusuke at his very best, which he hopes the tournament will develop his powers and stuff. As well, we get glimpses of each of their abilities. We just see, oh my god, these guys are scary. How can our heroes win against them? Stuff. And during the tournament, we also learned that the younger Toguro had a past relation with Yusuke's mentor, Genkai, where they fought together to fight demons until they parted ways when Toguro decided to become a demon himself, the strongest that they could make him, and all that stuff. Genkai and Toguro clash, which, of course, temporarily kills Genkai. We'll get to that a bit later. And when it comes to the final fight between, Toguro and Yusuke, the stakes are built after the build-up between, the previous fights, not to mention the added grudge now with Genkai's death. As Yusuke struggles to keep going up against Toguro's more higher forms of power and stuff, until Toguro apparently kills Kurobara, that pushes him over the edge, where he's finally able to have the power to beat him. And then in the end, we find out, Toguro planned all of this just so he could make Yusuke stronger, just so he can kill him to atone for all the crimes he did and the regret he has for the demons as he chooses his fate and arranges so that Genkai can come back to life and stuff. He planned everything out just to receive his punishment and stuff, and then to make Yusuke Genkai's successor stronger and stuff. In many ways, it's kind of satisfying to where this sort of villain goes. Even though he's kind of like a reformed villain in the end, it works. The way they build it up, particularly for his fight, it's brilliant and stuff. Let's see, the younger to go, who is perhaps the most frequent antagonist as he appears in the next arc. He is downright insane and bloodthirsty and evil. He's probably, in some ways, he's probably the most downright evilest character in the series in terms of personality. And the more as he's how unkillable he is and that stuff, and how he ends against Kurama, in many ways is very satisfying, as it's probably the perfect way to punish this character. And the fights between Kurama and Kurosawa and Boo were amazing. And Sakyo, who had sort of romance with Kurobawa's older sister, at least in the anime, was kind of interesting as well, I will admit. Even though I don't think it led to anywhere, but yeah, let's see. I quite liked how he was like behind all the scenes until like the end, and when he finally admits that he's defeated, he takes his own life by destroying the tournament, the stadium and stuff. While with Sasuke and his group of villains, like see the Soul Reapers that joined him and the Aranka, they started off good. I mean, granted, he was ridiculously overpowered to begin with due to his Songpakto being able to alter like do like sort of illusions that alters the five senses and stuff. But his plan at the beginning was quite well good and stuff. How he got the Hokyoku from Rukia to help him in the future crush the Soul Society, and then later later claim the place of the Soul King if he ever got there and stuff. And the Sparda and all that stuff had all these unique abilities and design-wise, and for the most part, they were all memorable, except for the one that ended up fighting Byakuga, because I'm pretty sure all of the Sparda are fan favorites except for the one that fought Byakuga, I'm going to be honest. Particularly the ones that stand out are Grimjow and Ukiyo, who had some of the best fights against Ichigo and stuff. And many ended up shipping Ukiyo and Orihime, which they had a kind of prominent moment at the end and stuff. While everyone got hyped when Grimjow kind of like returned for the final arc, even though he rarely did anything, but still, people enjoyed that. But I kind of like how Grimjow's fight with Ichigo began and ended. That was kind of satisfying. Ukiyo, I'm not sure. I feel like it was kind of pulled by the end when Ichigo got his hollow powers taking over the fight, but I kind of like how it ends on a tragic note. Let's see. Gin turned out to be a good guy in the end, but it was interesting in the end and stuff. I quite like Gin. And while I kind of like Kosen, he's kind of minor, but I do think he did a kind of like fine development for the 7th Division captain, who I quite liked. But anyway, out of the two group, but with going back to Aizen, when it came to like the final concentration, when it came to like finally confronting Ichigo, it started to get a bit ridiculous when he planned everything from the beginning, because I've been planning this since the day you were born, or stuff. Granted, you can't find out why he took an interest in Ichigo in the final arc when it revealed his flashback. But but the character was just too OP that how Ichigo went to confront him was kind of anticlimactic. And for a while, to us three, was probably the most anticlimactic boss fight in the series until Naruto came along in the end. But yeah, after those two groups, I would have to admit, I think Team To-Go wins. Now, with Jurobak and Sensui, let's see, in many ways with Jurobak, he started off well with like this ruthless tyrant who would kill his own subordinates. And let's see, once they failed or they served their purpose or stuff, and the way how he brutally killed Yamamoto and it looked like it was building up to this big confrontation with Ichigo and him when it was revealed that he's kind of partly responsible for his mother's death. But it never really went there, and it never really amounted to anything, and it kind of underwhelming how he was defeated. Well, Sensui, I think, is, for Yu Yu Hakusho, the most complex villain of the series, due to being, in many ways, he's kind of like what Ginju for like Bleach was, like the previous substitute Soul Reaper, along with, well, he was also the previous Spirit Detective. So in many ways, he's kind of like the dark counterpart for Yusuke and stuff. And let's see how he started off as this spirit detective who assumed all demons are evil and humans are good, until that one incident what completely shattered him, and he vowed to destroy humans afterwards. The build-up between the confrontation, how he gathered like other psychics to help him destroy the human race, only to discard them when he no longer needed them, was very tactfully done and stuff. And the fight against Yusuke was quite satisfying. In many ways, it ended kind of similar to like the whole Ukiyo versus Ichigo, but better done and better development for more of Yusuke with the unsatisfaction. Not to mention the complexities he has with his multiple personalities, all that stuff. Yeah, not to mention he's got a quite good fighting style. So in terms of villains, I think Yu Yu Hakusho does them better, as they're much more complex and a lot more characteristics to them and stuff. Sorry, not the best description, I know. Anyway, I'm done.
What's the topic?
The topics for villains between Bleach with Aizen and Yuha, and then with Yu Yu Hakusho being Sensui and Toguro.
Yeah, Sensui and Toguro, because they had a beginning, middle, and end, and it was kind of satisfying. While with Bleach's, they started off well, but it became anticlimactic how they were defeated. So I kind of rambled on because
no. Actually, that's perfectly fine, because that's everything it has to be said. And I guess I could just say, "Oops, I'm sorry." I guess I could just say, like in a very minimum wise, just say, "Yeah, I would agree that I would choose Yu Yu Hakusho." Mainly because, again, it's like you said, the Bleach did have a beginning. They have something interesting, especially Aizen. Aizen was actually pretty interesting, and that whole Fuju to everybody was really like one of the memorable part of the series, and it was like, damn, I can't believe
no one saw that twist coming. No one saw that twist coming.
Yeah, and it was great. It was awesome. It was like, holy crap, everybody could not touch him, like. Cannot harm him. This guy was like unbeatable, and his words, his word semantic is like, damn, this guy is threatening. I like him. He's like a character you like to hate. I like that, but I guess this is one of those cases, which is funny because somebody asks, like, about the question about the villain, and I was saying, like, the thing about this villain that is a different series. Is different is that the villain already shows you what he is, already shows you what he's capable of, and as well as that he can be defeated. The problem is, it's just so damn difficult because he's that skillful. It's not the matter of like, I get powerful, I get power up, I get every power up every time I get killed. Something like that just keep on coming and coming. And the thing is, he can be defeated. We have seen a way to beat him. The problem is he just has that one tiny perk that he always had from the beginning that makes him unstoppable. But it's not because he keeps getting power up. He keeps getting BS after BS after BS. It's nothing like that. And the way I describe them reminds me of Aizen after that twist. Basically in the Winter War. It's unfortunate because I still like how he have his way, his words, how he taunts them, provokes them. It's like, damn, you really want to hate them? You really want him to get his ass kicked or everything like that. But when it comes to the battle, and then when he gets endless power up, it just gets old. It doesn't undermine the idea, like it doesn't. How should I say? I'm trying to find the right word. It doesn't really makes it very intense when it comes to like mano one-on-one battle with the protagonist and the villain, the antagonist, who pretty much had that almost near until the final boss of U-Haul, becoming of the character that made the protagonist who he is kind of sense. I mean, he knows him, but it's like that grudge battle that could get personal, and it got it there. But again, with the endless power up, and then the way how Ichigo used his final move, and it didn't do anything because he gets more power up. It's like, really now, come on. And then he gets defeated by a seal. Okay. And then it's like, wow.
I actually kind of forgot about that, to be honest.
Yeah, that was like, you couldn't just have that final Getsuko Tenso kill him. I mean, or at least just weaken him so that he can he can no longer move, and then they can seal him afterwards. I mean, I get that he doesn't want to kill off Aizen, but you could at least like paralyze him or something. I don't know. Sorry, go on.
No, it's good. And then U-Haul, well, he started off really well, but then towards the end, it got the same phase. Only it's weird how he's like all justified to be an asshole, the villain of the villains, hateable, everything. And then he tried to act like a peace justice guy. That doesn't make sense to me. I'll try to bring peace. It's like, what? What are you talking about now? Don't try to bring morale in the final. Final chapter.
Weren't you trying to destroy all life or something?
Yeah, you were just doing that. Now you're telling me you were actually trying to save people all this time? Since when?
Yeah, that was very weird. That
was like such a phoned-in final moment just to have a big message that come from Aizen, no less. Yeah, I don't know. All I can say is it's easily Yu-Yu Hakusho win for this one.
Yeah, I honestly, for me, I can say the same thing, because it's like you guys have been saying with Bleach, with Aizen, and especially like with Yu-Ha, like they have a beginning and it's good. Like it sets up for like what their role is within the arc itself. But the thing is, you don't really see so much of a grand conclusion with both of them. Now, Aizen, again, if Bleach had ended with the Oranger saga, you could have argued, it works and it doesn't work. But since we gotta look at it as a whole, Aizen's side of things is kind of, like Sparta said, kind of phoned in. It's kind of just there going like, well, okay, that's the thing. And then the thing about with Yu-Ha, I was like, I don't know, like, good beginnings. I'll say that. Good introductions, good way to like set up shit as far as like, okay, we're here, we're about the cost of. Though with Aizen, I can kind of see how his side of things play within the story. But with Yu-Ha, I don't know if it's just me, but thinking back on it, he wasn't really foreshadowed throughout the story. Now, sure, you could say that Kubo has that habit of writing the story as he goes along. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. But you have to do it in a way where it kind of makes sense. Sure, you could argue that you have Zangetsu being Yu-Ha from 1,000 years ago. You could argue that being the setup, which can kind of work in an extent too. But from what I recall, and from what Bleach is, Uryu and his grandfather, well, and his dad in a sense, because his grandfather's not dead, but they were like the last remaining Quincy's. That's what we were told at the beginning of Bleach. So, now, and again, you can kind of excuse that, but it did feel very last minute for the final arc. It did feel very last minute. And maybe that's just me saying that, but that's just how I personally feel. Whereas with Toguro and with Sensui, not only are they set up, not even like in the arc that they're heavily involved in, but they're introduced within like the previous arc. Like with Toguro, he was brought in near the end of the Spirit Detective Saga. With Sensui, it was literally at the ending of the Dark Tournament arc. And so, because that's where you're like, oh, shit, like, what's going to happen here since he's got the older Toguro brother? And that's where that got set up. And he's not really a villain per se, but you can kind of say with Yusuke's Mazuku side, that's kind of where you get introduced to Ryzen. So on that, and again, Ryzen's not a villain. I'm just saying, like, as far as setup goes, Yu Yu Hakusho definitely takes the cake, especially for the villains. So I would have to say Yu Yu Hakusho takes it over Bleach, even though I love Aizen. But still, overall arc themselves, Aizen's kind of like, that really happened, and then same thing with Yu Yu Hakusho, it's like, eh. So Yu Hakusho takes the cake for me for that also. Now we are going to move into the arcs, starting with the best arc of both series. And this is going to be a little bit interesting.
All right, just one quick note to before we go in the arcs. There's one thing that we should probably point out is that Bleach is perhaps so far the only series that we know of, besides Assassination Classroom, that does not have a proper tournament arc.
That's actually true. That's actually kind of true.
For those readers wondering what me and Lucky Chi are going on about, because us three tend to chat on Skype to each other quite a lot, not just with podcasts, just general catching up and talk about the latest manga and stuff. And during one of those discussions, we were trying to figure out, is there any manga that doesn't have a tournament arc? Right, Artu?
School animes.
Nisekoi? Well, that's the one.
Well, that's the school anime, technically.
Okay. In terms of like
Battle, right?
In terms of battle.
Because nearly every manga you can think of has some form of tournament, either being exams, let's see, Gladiator Coliseums, heck, let's see, all that stuff.
Sports festival.
Like that. And all of them at some point ended up having a tournament. Heck, even One Piece with Dressrosa.
I'm surprised it took that long.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it took 700 chapters and it finally got us a tournament arc.
And it's a controversial arc in and of itself.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it depends on, yeah. No,
One thing
granted,
that-
we'll give Dressrosa's tournament arc.
One thing they all have in common is that the protagonist never wins in the first one. First and never one. Or maybe even ever.
Let's see, they either get their butts whooped or the fight or the tournament is interrupted by somehow. Or someone has to take their place. That's usually what happens in the first tournament. Oh, granted, Yusuke ends up winning his first tournament.
Well, no.
Right? That's kind of shocking. But what we're kind of going off from this is saying Bleach didn't have a tournament arc, which I didn't realize it until thinking upon, like, oh my god, Bleach never had a tournament arc.
And that's why it got canceled. Woohoo!
But I guess it just shows that you see some popular series don't have to have a tournament arc anyway. Anyway,
No, of course not.
Anyway, go back onto topic. Best arc of both series.
So for Yu Yu Hakusho, it's easy to say it's the Dark Tournament or the Chapter Black Saga.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Mm-hmm. For Bleach, there's I would argue the Arrancar Saga is probably a good arc.
Well, it is a good arc. It's second.
I mean, it started off well. Beginning was all right as well, even if it's starting to look similar to Soul Society. But
Too much similar.
But
too much similar.
The
But when it comes to the third half,
the issue with the Arrancar Saga is mainly once we get to the fake core car town arc. Once we get there, then we start stalling, and it's like,
yeah, and not to mention this entire arc lasted 20 to 26 to 28 volumes.
around that length.
Yeah, let's see, and it's divided into 3 parts: the Arrancar invasion of Kurakara town with the Vizards and all that stuff, the rescue mission in Hueco Mundo, and the fake Kurakara town stuff. Those are that you can divide it into those 3 smaller but still very long major arcs. Kind of like with how Naruto, like the Naruto War arc, can be divided into separate parts but still quite long.
You could say
Anyway,
that.
Yeah.
So as far as comparing the best arcs go, I'm kind of stuck on that actually, because again, Bleach doesn't have a tournament arc per se.
You must have a tournament arc to be good.
Not necessarily, but
No, but it's the logic that sounds like it's being applied right now by Lucky.
But in many ways, you gotta give credit to the Soul Society arc for being despite
You mean
the
Bleach?
best arc in the series, and it's not a tournament arc.
That's true. No, I will definitely agree with that. Soul Society arc, definitely, for not being a tournament arc, did a fantastic job. I mean, definitely say that.
In many ways, it shows that you don't need to have a tournament arc to make a series great.
No.
Let's see. Anyway.
But yeah, as far as comparison go, I'm stuck. Again.
Well,
Let's see, the Black Saga arc is kind of similar to the Fullbring arc, but that's more of Bleach. It can be considered more of Bleach's worst arc.
Well, truth be told, it's going to be hard for me to compare, mainly because I didn't have a refresher before entering this podcast. I mean, I still remember a good majority of elements, like character-wise and this and that. But in terms of the entire arc and his pacing and his thrills and his rides, whatever, it's a little foggy on my end. In Yu Yu Hakusho term, like I have watched it, but it's been
And
more than
Bleach,
10
all of
years.
us know off by heart.
Well, Bleach is too new. It's still fresh. Yu Yu Hakusho came around like what 99 in
around there. Yeah, it was around.
Yeah, around there. Bleach, like
the English dub only came out in 2006, I think. Oh,
Yeah.
around there for English. No, is it? Yeah, around there. I think around there.
Mhm.
I still remember, and they keep giving it to Nami, so I still remember by like, oh yeah, I remember this scene. I remember that scene. So for Yu Yu Hakusho, for me, it's been way too long. I wish I had a refresher to remember, but I do recall saying that the Yu Yu Hakusho best arc will be Dark Tournament. And maybe it might change my mind if I watch or read the what was the other one name again?
Black Saga.
Yeah, maybe it's one of those cases like, oh, I didn't like that arc that much. Well, I actually do like that arc, but you know what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say like back then I used to think this arc was and then today I thought this arc is amazing. You know, it's kind of that kind of case. Maybe it would have happened to me if I actually rewatched it right now, but I don't know. I didn't have enough time to do so because I have to do with other things. As you saw in my channel, I have to make those videos. I have to actually watch all those anime, which I managed to do, and thankfully I did. Don't regret one bit. However, only thing I regret is to have anything prepared for Yu Yu Hakusho side in terms of the pacing of his arc structure, the storyboard, and all that stuff. That I regret. So I guess I can't really answer that clearly, to be honest with you.
Well, let's see. Well, to determine what you've determined as the best arc, I think it really depends on your preference when it comes to Yu Yu Hakusho. Do you enjoy the more battle format of shonen, or do you rather enjoy the more complexities which you get from a Togashi's kind of work? Because I believe the Black Leg, is it?
Chapter Black Saga.
Chapter Black Saga. It's kind of more similar with Hunter x Hunter in terms of complexities.
Right, I know you're talking about. See, that's the part I'm talking about. Like, if I feel like if I go back and watch that, I'll probably find that arc to be amazing. I saw that when I was still like a teenager who's like, "Give me action, man."
Let's see.
I mean, like I still remember a lot of great elements, like the character developments, the character-driven story parts, and everything from the tournament arc. Yeah. The Dark Chapter is the only arc that I could say that I only watched it once and read it once, but I never did it like a take two because, you know, again, when it comes to Toonami, they repeat the Dark Tournament like constantly, more than anything arc. It's kind of like if you watch Dragon Ball Z reruns, you always stumble upon Frieza.
Yeah.
Yeah,
barely
I know.
Majin Buu. Barely Majin Buu, barely GT. And that's it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I don't know what my stance would be as far as comparisons go, but I guess for best darks, I could say they both go to Yu Yu Hakusho and Bleach. I guess that's the only fair thing I could probably say.
For me, when it comes to Dark Tournament, let's see. Well, I first thought it was going to be going like a regular tournament, but I do like how Togashi does some interesting twists and turns for this arc. I mean, well, it's standard up as a normal team kind of like tournament. Each round, he makes each round unique and different. For the first one, it's a 5-on-5. First team to get 3 victories wins. Second round, he has like old combatants that are there, which is 3 members of each team, fight at the same time. Yusuke's team gets a extra round because the committee and the demons there are all against them. They are the underdogs. Heck, the crowd is against them, all that stuff. They are the team Urameshi is definitely the definition of underdogs in this entire arc. So the birds, and in this round, where like all combating team members who can fight in this round for like the Urameshi, unfortunately Genkai and Hiei have been trapped by apparently Medic to prevent them from fighting. So it's only up to Kurama and Yusuke at the time, but Kurobara was too injured from his broken bones and stuff at the time. Let's see, while they have to fight 5 demons. And the way this tournament goes was they send one player into the tournament first, Let's see, loser gets knocked out, winner stays on, and so forth until one team loses all their members. And let's see, and then in the final tournament, where final semi-finals, let's see, is sort of similar. It's a sort of similar kind of thing with like the last round, though, kind of similar to like the last round, though. The teammates get chosen at random, and you can it can be like it can go one person, and the same person again as long as his name on the die is rolled. But once, let's see, the person is defeated, they can no longer, granted, Kuroba ended up coming back to the fight twice, but even though he lost both times, but hey. But it's kind of weird on that part, to be honest, for me, but anyway. But yeah. And then back to the standard 3 wins kind of system. So yeah, Tadashiki, we'll see how can I make a regular tournament as unique as I can, kind of thing. And in terms of action, it's fun to seeing the characters battle and stuff as they get stronger and stronger and stuff. And it's a good build up with fighting younger Toraguro. Let's see, so yeah, if you enjoy battles, that's why you probably like this arc. Like I said, with Chapter Black Saga, that one's a bit more. Well, there's a bit of action there. It's more of dealing with like the complexities of the human nature and stuff, human character. Does humanity deserve to live and die? All that stuff. Do we have to take human lives to save other humans? Are demons really all that different to humans? It's got all that along with some great action and stuff. Well, with Bleach, it's a genuine rescue arc, kind of thing. Save the princess kind of thing, I guess. Well, granted, Rukia is not really a princess, but each of the characters develop and stuff. You learn more about this soul society, the issues it has, and as well as conspiracy. Just Ichigo's friends just battling every Soul Reaper there are, because there's like so many of them. By the way, happy birthday, Lucky Chi. Skype is telling me. And no, it's your birthday. Oh, so saying happy birthday.
Thanks, guys.
In my timeline, it's not his birthday, but I'll just get a head start. Happy birthday!
Thank you.
Let's see. I would give you a present, but I don't know your address. But anyway, and I also let's see, and yeah, all that stuff. But anyway, and it probably costs too much. But anyway, let's see. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, but let's see. It's not just Ichigo's friends that are also doing stuff. It's also, the Soul Reapers kind of divide into different groups, and they're all doing this thing. Some are trying to discover this conspiracy. Some are plotting against each other. Some are just, no idea what to do in this whole situation. In many ways, it's a very good arc. And Ichigo's development throughout is probably the best in the series. In many ways, if I was to rank the arcs, I'd probably put the Soul Society arc above the Dark Tournament arc, mainly because it's more original in terms of. Okay, thank you, Artu. In terms of battle. Of how it does its battle kind of action thing. But I would say the Chapter Black Saga is probably better than the Soul Society arc. That's what I've got to say in the whole issue of best arc.
You probably say they kind of both win in that case.
Yeah,
that's kind of where I stand too when it comes to that.
So it's kind of a draw.
Yes. So now we cut to the worst arc of both series. And it's interesting because both of the worst arcs, not to say that the Three Kings saga sucks, because it doesn't, okay? I very much like the Three Kings saga. My issue with it, and it's very similar to what we said about the O-Parts on our final arc, is that it's rushed. And you can tell that it's rushed. Both in terms of the manga and in terms of the anime. Because, well, I'll get into that when we get into that, but it does have its rushed elements to it. And with Bleach, no surprise. Well, actually, no, here's the weird thing. What do you guys think is worse? The Fullbring arc from Bleach or the 1,000-Year Blood War arc from Bleach?
Well, on one hand, the Fullbring arc is kind of boring. I mean, there's some interesting stuff, but let's see. It doesn't really pick up at the beginning. It's more in the middle where it's most interesting. And the ending kind of gets a bit anticlimactic. But in a way, it's still a full arc. It still has a beginning, middle, and end. And
it does have a satisfying conclusion as far as an arc goes. I'll say that.
Yes, but with the
which one? Yu-Yu Hakushou?
No, for Bleach, as far as the Fullbring arc goes.
Oh, it's funny because I'm debating myself at this time which one is the worst arc. But go on, Blue Star.
But let's see. Okay, Arthur.
No,
Yes,
hard.
thank you. Let's see.
Really hard.
Let's see. Okay, but let's see. But with the Blood War, it actually starts off really well. I mean, for once, you have characters dying, which I suppose is one advantage Bleach does bizarrely have an advantage over Yu Yu Hakusho. Is in that case, good characters do end up dying, I suppose.
Oh, brother.
Which, though granted, Yu Yu Hakusho's cast is a lot smaller, so it can be a lot more excused as it mainly focuses on the 4 main fighters and stuff.
See, here's a good example, you folks. You got no character death in Yu Yu Hakusho in terms of goods, but yet it's a better series. I wonder why. Death doesn't make better series. It only helps if it's done right. Knock yourself out and wake up already, because death is only crucial when the writing says so, not because of your ratings. Enough. And I had to deal with this again with another series that just happened to come out this year.
Okay. Is that are you referring to Attack on Titan or never mind? Anyway.
No, please come on, don't worry. Off topic.
Okay, sorry, off topic. My apologies. Let's see. But let's see. The Blood War starts off phenomenal. It's really dark and stuff. I mean, let's see the way how well, not that kind of dark, but more like
I'm just kidding. Go on.
frenzies come in. While there's not much personality except for a few individuals, they seem invincible. They tear the minor Soul Reapers left and right. And let's see, it particularly got a bit, it's going to get a bit dark when like Yamamoto's lieutenant got killed. Then all these regular Soul Reapers dying. And then it looked like the 3rd lieutenant also got blasted, a bit of his arm blasted. It looked like he was dead, but he comes back later for no reason at all. But let's see, I'll get to that in a minute. Heck, even it looked like Byakuya was going to die in a very dark way. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone was shocked by that. And then Yamamoto ends up getting sliced in half, and then his remains obliterated by Yurabak. Let's see, afterwards, it's kind of quiets down a bit, but that's because we're introduced to the Zero Division. Let's see, and everyone's training to get powerful because the bad guys are coming back, and Ichigo learns more of his past. Still good. The bad guys come, starts off all right, but as it drags on and on and on, you just want it to end, and some of the major characters that should be dead aren't dead. At least for the way it was said that, hey, these guys should be dead, kind of thing. And it ends in a very anticlimactic way with a kind of forced time skip in a sense. So in many ways, you could argue, the Blood War as the worst and stuff. Now, as for, the last arc with, Yu Yu Hakusho, it starts off really well, actually. I mean, from what it looks like, it's building up to this great demon war where friends of that, Yusuke, Kurama, and Hiei will be forced to fight on or opposing sides for the ideals of what each of these demons plans. One wants Ritzy and all that stuff. Then we also learn about each of their pasts a bit more. We learn about more of Yusuke's ancestry, Kurama's old demon life with like the one with the king he's partnered up with, and how that king became to be. And we learned a bit more about Hiri's past as how he was exiled and how he got his 3rd eye and stuff. And it starts off, and once Yusuke's sort of father kind of dies, it looks like war's about to break out and all that stuff. But Yusuke Yusuke fashion way, it surprises everyone and saying, let's do a tournament. Winner decides who rules. No, I bet no one saw that coming. We also get the return of quite a few new, some of the old favorites from the Dark Tournament that Yusuke and Co. fought against, particularly the drunk guy, the kid with the yo-yos, the wind dude that has an Irish accent in the dub, the ice ninja, the clown guy, and the dude with the sort of soul sword that I thought died against Genkai. But oh well, that turns into an imp. But I'm not sure. But never mind about that. And we also get introduced to all these new interesting fighters and stuff. Well, some scenes just it begins well with just showing off what each of these characters can do, even if it's just brief. With only a few fights that are really focused on. Yusuke, Kurama, and Hiei each get a full-fledged battle, but that's it. They only get that one. Now, granted, each of them are quite satisfying, and they are perfect conclusions for each of their characters' stuff. With Kurama finally winning, Kurama winning his last battle by rejecting the Yoko Kurama, winning with his own human powers and stuff like that. Not to mention 1,000-year-long planning, and finally accepts that he's human now. This is how he wants to be. Hiei finally able to let go of his hatred, and for the first time since being beaten by Yusuke, losing a fight. And with the final fight with like Yusuke and the king that Kurama served, holy moly, that fight is amazing. In many ways, you could even argue it might be even the best fight in the series. Or at least it's perhaps the best one-on-one final I have ever seen in any series. I mean, it makes the final Naruto and Bleach fights to shame in many ways, but see, all that stuff. I mean, you guys were watching it with me as I was just watching the final episodes, and we all just loved it. The animation was beautiful, all that stuff. I mean, in many ways, it was a satisfying thing, and Yusuke lost, but you're fine with it. You're fine with it and all that stuff, because his actions during that fight have prevented like the wrong kind of person winning. It helped change each of the characters who saw that fight, and the right guy in the end got Ritzy, became Demon King. However, like we said, it's cut short. Many of the characters, you kind of wish their fights lasted a bit longer, all that stuff. And you never really got enough time to get to know some of these new characters, with the exception of the Kings. I mean, they're the only ones that really got proper development. And the one that ends up winning is, well, a friend, we learn is a friend of Yusuke's kind of ancestor. That's all you really know about him, to be honest, besides being married to, like, possibly his ancestor's former lover kind of thing. Still, it ends in a satisfying way, but still, you just wish that this arc lasted, like, at least another 13 more episodes, just so everyone could get a spotlight. That's all I have to say. Let's see. Now, but I would still say, in terms of satisfying conclusions, the way it's still much better than what with either the Fullbring arc or even the Blood War, because it feels like, even though the ending, it rushed to the ending still feels kind of satisfying. It's just like we're just missing a chunk of pieces just to expand upon. That's all I have to say.
So now the floorboard opens to you, Sparta.
Well, yeah, from the sound of it, it sounds like there is no bad arc for for Yu Yu Hakusho. The way how you addressed it, it's like, you're still intrigued, yet you're supposed to be like, yeah, this arc, it's so weak, it was lame, it was bad, it was slow, it was disappointing, blah blah blah. Instead, you compliment everything about it. So, I don't know. What is considered a worst arc in Yu Yu Hakusho?
Well, it depends. It's either the first arc, which is just a simple,
I'm just gonna pick
action, but it's just not really bad. It's just weak kind of thing. It's just simplistic kind of thing, or the ending because it's too rushed to where it gets.
Well, the manga is worse in that regard, but we're.
But I've only seen the anime, so I need to buy the volumes and read this.
Then I remember. I would just pick on the safe side the first arc ever. It's not even the worst arc. I actually like that still because, again, I don't remember too much of which is considered not the best or which is considered not that good in Yu Yu Hakusho term. It's been too long, but I'm just gonna pick the first one, and I'll just say even that is the case, I'll still say that worst arc, quote unquote, is still better, miles better than Bleach worst arc. And hey, in episode 4, I still remember this one because this is always makes me laugh. In episode 4, you still got the best rejection scene ever. So there's that. Oh, I love that scene. Now for Bleach, I'm still debating. But I'm gonna draw my conclusion now. Like, it's between the Fullbring arc and the final arc, and I probably just say the final arc, mainly because it literally built itself for disappointment. It started off strong. It started off Soul Society tier arc. It has that vintage Bleach. It's something that's like, yes, we finally getting that greatness that Bleach had before. Yeah, we got a new character which got completely neglected throughout right after the middle. I don't even know what happened to those kids. Well. Yeah, so after that, we are set to get some crazy battle, more personal problems, and especially with the whole Ichigo's mother was involved, more or less, even though the timing is too perfect, but whatever. Point is, it got personal. Ichigo is about to get power up. if I recall how it works, it kind of sounds a little goofy. Maybe if I kind of remember, I kind of don't. The power up sounds kind of silly. You've been saying the name a little tiny bit wrong. Really now? Yeah. If you say it perfectly right, you get the perfect form. I think that's how it goes. I don't remember. Is that how it goes?
I think so. I think
It sounds kind of silly. Like you said it wrong, you stupid idiot. It's like saying Kame Mame Ha. It's like no, it's Kame Hame Ha. If you say that, your beam is bigger. I don't know. It sounds silly because I always under the impression it was just about.
Not to mention, in the final arc of Bleach, they kept explaining their abilities to the enemy and stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason why I finally go to the conclusion to pick the final art as the worst art. The formula literally is the same thing as you've seen before, and it actually expand upon the whole explanation to the villain, and it keeps going. It's the exact same format. How is that not possible? Like, how you not recognize your own flaw of the writing? Like, how the good guy? Like, I could understand if 1 or 2 characters to do that, but everyone. Every single one of them? Aha, you fool. You fall for my ultimate trap card.
It would have been better if they just did it as in a monologue or just like have some narration.
Well, yeah, the exposition, right. But in the monologue sense, I'll be fine with that. But instead, they have them actually...
They just say it out.
Say it out loud. And then sometimes the bad guys will be questioning. What do you mean by that? You mean you to tell me that if I would have stopped you right there, you would not have activated? Exactly. Like, really? You're answering the guy's question. If he somehow come back, whose fault is that? So, and it happens constantly. Happens with a lot of different battles, a lot of different characters. It's crazy. I don't understand what was going on. Ichigo was neglected until the final last piece, which Orihime was like vowing to be very useful, more useful to Sakura. Turns out being nearly the same.
Bad.
Yeah.
Bad. Look, granted, at least Sakura got a final punch against a supposedly big bad of the series, but
and then her revival Dragon Ball, you want to call it, doesn't even work on Ichigo until these damn Fullbringer guys show up for that one tiny moment. Just for one tiny.
Honestly, I feel like Ichigo should at least had 2 major fights before Jurabak.
Yeah.
It does feel like that way.
Yeah, and I like how Ichigo keep on losing every single fight before he gets to the final arc. I can't feel my gravity, whatever how you said it. I can't feel the gravity. What's going on? I'm being delinquent. My Bankai, it was so awesome. It was supposed to be awesome. Why it broken? Why my sword broken? Why I'm having a panic attack? Why I feel like the first character start off when he's just witnessed monster for the very first time? Why am I acting this way? Why am I having a panic attack? Why am I overly confident as soon as this guy fixed my sword? And they're like, oh, hell yeah. And then when my sword was about to break again, oh, God, oh, Christ, oh, man.
That's actually a very good point.
I mean, I was like, come on, Ichigo. You wasn't like this.
You weren't.
No. You were supposed to be like some badass guy. And you was, especially when you got the Bankai for the first time. It was awesome. Where did that go? I guess it went away so far that he ends up marrying Orihime, the Ichigo today. Anyway, but joking aside, yeah, all those faults comes in. There's the pattern is the same thing. It's ridiculous amount. The pacing gone slow. Again, every character gets their focus, even though it feels like we don't get too many of them for a full-fledged volume.
I don't even think Chad gets a fight.
No, yeah. I think he did. With 2 arms, did he?
I don't mind having a few volume boss fights because sometimes you want a fight to be a volume length when it comes to like the big bads and stuff. But when it's all the time, you don't want it. You're just like, can you just end already?
Yeah, but wait, I think he had a fight though, right?
Did he? Having a final fight.
No, let's see. At the beginning, he got him. They got their butts kicked by that jail dude when Ichigo was trapped in his prison. When they were training with like Kisuke along with Grimmjow, they didn't have a fight, no fights at all, except maybe possibly assisting Ichigo against Jurabak. And then Sado ends up fighting these random sand golems with Ganji, I think it is.
Yeah, like that's what I was gonna bring up. Like the only fight Chad gets is with a couple of fodder statues. That's it. They don't he doesn't actually have a fight with.
Yes, I remember now.
That's
remember
offspring.
now. It was the damn statue. Giant soldier of stones. I remember. Yes. Okay. Yeah, that was lame. Okay.
Come on. I mean,
Oh,
you
the
could
most
at least
disappointing
have,
has to be the
all
fathers.
of Ichigo's. You could at least have all of Ichigo's friends fighting at least one Quincy, and Ichigo's friends and the Soul Reapers that were up there fight
Right.
against that giant Quincy gladiator dude.
But yeah, but
Like a final fight.
yeah, but now I remember the most disappointing part is the fathers. Oh my god, they have a lot of focus in the flashback. They finally get in the present time at the very end of the arc, and then that was it. They disappeared because they give him a cheat code to Ishida.
Here's the other thing. What exactly was Ryukin doing in the final arc? Before that, we don't know. Because he shows up and he's like, all right. I'm like, okay, so are we going to get an explanation on what you were doing?
Nope.
Nope. Nothing.
Nothing. Forget about explanation. The point
Like,
is,
okay, with
I showed
Ichigo's
up once and
dad,
gone.
with I'm blanking on his name right now.
Whose name?
Ichigo's dad. Ishin. Yeah.
Ishin? Yeah, Ishin.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
with Ishin, we get a little bit of what his role was in the arc. So I can kind of excuse Ryukin, just not Ryukin, Ishin just a little bit. Ryukin, though, it's like, what were you doing in the present
They
timeline?
didn't even explain it. He's like, yeah, I'm a Quincy, so what? Deal.
And I'm like, oh, you are a Quincy. You should have a role, but I guess.
Oh, unfortunate.
It
But
is.
yeah, so pretty much I can say is that Bleach final arc, the worst arc. I mean, you can still argue Fullbringer, but even if you put Fullbringer is an arc that a lot of people likes to say is the one that pretty much nailed the coffin for Bleach popularity. At least that's how they adjust it, or
Mhm.
that's how they see it. I don't know if that's true, but all I do know is that after coming back from Fullbringer arc, I was like, yeah, where all that fluster go?
I do know, and sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's
Spark.
cool. It's fine.
I'm just gonna-
What I was going to say is that, and I know BlueStar mentioned it earlier too, but because I do hear a lot of people from time to time talk about, like, what if the Fullbringer arc was better? And you kind of get that with Chapter Black in a lot of ways. Like, the Chapter Black saga, in a lot of ways, you could say is like a better representation of what the Fullbringer arc should have been, even though with Chapter Black it did come before for the Fullbringer arc, so there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see, honestly, it feels like Kubo should have probably should have paid more attention to what the Chapter Black arc did for Yu Yu Hakusho. Many ways, but oh well.
But yeah, that's all I got. They like again, you can either pick Fullbringer or the Thousand War. It would still not be not worse, or it would still not be better, I guess.
No.
than the Yu Yu Hakusho worst arc. Even if I just pick randomly, especially if I just pick the first one. At least the first one just introduces, has some funny comedies, has some good parts, and then it has some romantic side as well. And yeah, that's all I got to say. It's not a bad thing. It's more of like a slow burner, but hell, once you pass that, it gets better and better, or it gets better and stay good, whatever how you see it.
That's true.
Mhm.
That's very true. So for me, as far as Yu Yu Hakusho goes, like, yeah, I did bring up the Three Kings saga, not because it's the worst arc, because like I said, it is a good arc, but in terms of pacing, it could have been better. I'll say that definitely for sure. It definitely could have been better, because because I remember specifically, like, the final arc happens, like it starts off good, and then we cut to a point where it's like, well, it's been 1 year, Yusuke. I'm glad all your training is going well. I'm like, wait. Hold on. Did I miss something? Like, what? But yeah. So
It feels like it should have had one of those one of those like title screens or narrations going like 3 months later kind of thing.
right.
So at least that time has passed.
Mm-hmm. But I guess to save time, because I feel like we've already kind of talked about it, I'll definitely say the worst arc goes to Bleach, without a shadow of a doubt. So that's what I have to say for that.
All right.
And then, as far as endings go,
It
I feel
should
like
be
it's kind of a
easy.
no-brainer question, so I'll go ahead and just say you
Yeah,
had the better ending.
Yeah, we kind of explained multiple times that the endings for Yu Yu Hakusho was much better with how we explained with how the characters end, with how their story arcs concluded and stuff. I mean, particularly like, let's see, what happened with Yusuke and Keiko was definitely satisfying. In many ways, you kind of wish that Kubo and Kishimoto did what Togashi did with Kisuke and Keiko.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I as far as that goes, yeah. Like,
I mean, again, when it comes to the end, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, go on. Actually,
well, I just want to insert the last things because of the ending. Again, the ending is obviously clearly better in Yu Yu Hakusho, and let's not forget in Bleach, you have to read the novels. And not a lot of people knows about that. But like, wait, we supposed to read a novel? I didn't know. Sure, I thought the novel was gonna focus on this person character. And that's it. So nobody know that. But we had to read the novels. We had to find other sources, and some of them that doesn't even get answered. We probably had to just keep on thinking what exactly happened. What I'm trying to say is that there are a lot of characters that actually gets unanswered in the ending. Like, what happens to this guy's fate? Did she die? Did they die? Are they still alive? Are they still around? I don't know. Nobody say anything. Like, the main one was Grimjaw one. We don't even know what happened to them. I mean, the novel finally addressed it, but when the ending came, we didn't know.
No one knows.
It felt like it was cancelled in many ways. It felt like Bleach was cancelled.
It has that cancel feeling. Like, oh, okay, let me just give you the ending. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, the end.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's my.
If anything, you could say as far as both series go, what they have in common is that both of the mangakas got sick during their final arcs.
That's true.
So that did kind of affect like the quality of the writing as far as their final arcs go. That's one thing I'm going to say.
Nah.
Thank you, R2.
You're welcome.
So, now we get to the questions. And which is the better series? I think that's obvious. Yu Yu Hakusho.
Don't we need to discuss the authors or?
Oh,
no.
I guess as far as we'll get to the authors in just a minute, but who's the better artist? That's kind of debatable.
Well, I'm not sure. I've not really seen Yu Yu Hakusho's art style except for a few panels, and most of the ones I've seen are usually when it's at its best and other stuff. I'm not really sure. I'm also more familiar with Kubo's art style than I am with like Togashi, so I can't really compare it. I mean, I could compare the anime's art styles, but let's see. The mangas, I'm not so sure, to be honest. But let's see. In many ways, they, from what I can hear, they both started off really incredible artwork. But as the series went on for both of them, let's see, it got weaker and weaker. Let's see. Well, again, I suppose with like in terms of length, I suppose Bleach's quality lasted a lot longer than than Yu Yu Hakusho's. Granted, Bleach is the longest series and Yu Yu Hakusho is the shortest series, so there's that for me regardless. But let's see, at the moment I'm kind of tied because I can't really have a say because I can't really compare at the moment. So well, just want to get that out of the way.
It's been a while since I last seen the manga form, so I don't really know too much of it. I do remember Bleach. I do remember it's one of the cases that it gets weaker. Depends how you see it. I mean, like it has that roughness a little from the beginning, but it has some charm and it has a really nice choreograph. It has I recently just read Zombie Powder. That's his old work, and it's the exact same thing when Bleach was in his heydays, when in early time. So yeah, I do like that form of art. And then later on, it's good, but it's like too blank. I think, like, you know, the whole joke about no background, crazy use amount of black ink for the like, I don't know, a big blast. It's like lazy. Yeah, it's like it seems more lazy, more so than effort to put. But again, we don't know it because he was sick. He did address he was sick at the time when he was still working on Bleach. I don't know how effective it was. I don't know if it was really that effective to the point that it lasted all the way to the end of the series. I don't know. He's doing a one shot very soon, so I'm looking forward to see how he progressed as an artist and the writer.
Definitely,
that I cannot wait. As for Togashi, I do recall that Togashi, when it comes to him being at his prime, he can really put up a really nice art. And it's probably is the case with Yu Yu Hakusho. I don't own the volume. I tend to debate myself. I only own the Blu-ray, and that's good enough. But I do wish I should like check of how it looks like in the volume case or in the book, whatever. It's hard to it's not hard to find on the internet, but I don't know if the quality is good. So
For me, I'm probably just gonna buy the digital copies for Yu Yu Hakusho since
Well,
it's a really old series.
Right. Well, my point is, you can't use Yu Yu Hakusho. You cannot use Hunter X Hunter Days because that's when he gets sick. That's when his back problem really becomes apparent. And unfortunately, at certain cases, that's when he becomes not motivated, not as motivated. But that's just him. That's whatever how he works. But so it's kind of hard to judge for Yu Yu Hakusho. I just know the Bleach one, it feels like you could argue that it got weaker and weaker as the time goes by. Depends how you see his art style. Like, do you like the art style from the past, the days where Bleach started off and the zombie powder, or you like the new style that's like it's kind of like an anime without being drawn in. Well, color in, excuse me, without being colored in, and it leaves a lot of blanks.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of in a similar position too with as far as the artists go because they're both pretty good.
Yeah,
honestly, like especially when you look at like Togashi's early Yu Yu Hakusho days, because again, that's like you said, that's when he was in his prime. And for Bleach, I would even kind of say like the zombie powder days, and especially for early Bleach, I think they're pretty solid. So if we're looking at it from that aspect alone, I'd probably say they're kind of even. Kind of, because I'm not exactly sure where my stance is on that as far as a better artist goes. So I'll just leave it there. So then we get to which is the better anime, and for me, I'm gonna because even though I think the Bleach anime supersedes the manga in a lot of ways, I can definitely say that Yu Yu Hakusho for me is probably the better anime, and it's funny because the director of the Bleach anime and the director of the Yu Yu Hakusho anime are both from the same guy. So it's kind of interesting to see that he did two series that are kind of similar to one another. And it makes sense for the most part.
Right.
Now, the reason why I'm kind of siding with Yu Yu Hakusho is that there are hardly any fillers. It's a surprising thing. Yu Yu Hakusho doesn't have any fillers as far as the anime is concerned.
Now, granted, it does have a filler included character in the form of the ogre, but you generally like the ogre's dynamic with like, I'm trying to remember his name. The baby dude, talking baby. You definitely enjoy that. Koenma. You definitely enjoy the ogres and Koenma's dynamic with each other.
Definitely. So I would just say that because with Bleach, anime's good, but when you hit the filler bits and unlike with Naruto, some of Bleach's fillers are actually pretty good.
Well, that's because they tend to do long story arcs instead of just like mini fillers and other stuff. I mean, Naruto did do a few story arc fillers, but that was mainly in like the early Shippuden days. Well,
the other thing is with all the fillers, Kubo had some involvement going on, and you can kind of tell. You can kind of tell. But the issues it's not the fillers themselves; it's where they're placed. Specifically, when we hit the Ronka arc, because we'll be like in fight, like it'll be like Ichigo versus Grimmjow. Cut the filler arc. Ichigo versus Ukiura. Cut the filler arc. It's like, I don't mind the arcs, but can we place them somewhere differently?
And can they also look like in a believable timeline? Because Ichigo has many of the abilities that you get some throughout different points in your arc, but it has them at the same time during these filler arcs. Where it's like, wait, how would he have these abilities when this stuff is going on? And shouldn't Orihime be kidnapped during these arcs? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So that's what I would just have to say is that for me, Yu Yu Hakusho has to have the better anime.
In some ways, I kind of wish that the Bleach filler arcs were more like just filler arcs that focused on Bleach characters you don't usually get much time on. You like filler arcs of like some of the Soul Reaper's pasts, even stuff with Ichigo's friends, which kind of did, but it was kind of ridiculous. But yeah. Sorry, go on.
That's cool.
That's all I have to say is that Bleach to me is just a better anime over or Yu Hakusho is just a better anime over Bleach. But what about you guys?
Yu Yu Hakusho for me for sure. I just
Yeah,
had
it's
a fond
definitely.
memory. I'm sorry. Oh, you want me to finish?
Right, sorry, yeah, you finish. Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I know you usually go next, but I just want to get this out of the way.
Sorry.
No, sorry, because I know you.
I apologize for R2 interrupting.
It's cool.
Shut up,
It's fine. It's fine. So yeah, like definitely one Yu Yu Hakusho for me. And again, I just saw it from Blue Star watching the final episode, and I was like, "Yep, there you go. That's exactly why I picked Yu Yu Hakusho." Even right before I saw this episode again, even if I didn't refresh my memory, I still got a good chunk of memory of the characters, their portrayal, their developments, and all that stuff. I just don't remember how the storyboarding goes for this arc. It's kind of like saying, like, that arc was amazing because Yusuke did this and this and that and all that greatness. But then you watch it, you're like, it's kind of slow paced though. It's kind of that's the only thing I don't remember wise. That's why I cannot answer that vividly. I cannot answer that like perfectly for you guys. But again, in the overall aspect, it's definitely Yu Yu Hakusho because again, the Bleach, it felt like it has a lot of things going. It felt like it has something that's really promising, especially after coming back from a really, really solid arc, the Soul Society arc. Everything else falls apart. I mean, it didn't fall apart that badly with Winter War. It's more or less, it's still good, but it could be better, I guess. But hey, I enjoy this. And then after that, the last two arc, not so good. So and that turns it down for me.
Let's see. For me, like everyone else, it's definitely the Yu Yu Hakusho arc. Granted, the Bleach anime, when it's focused on the canon material, it's good. It's really good. Heck, in some ways, even makes some of the manga stuff better. Particularly like the Hisagaya fight in like Fate Kurosaki Town when he's battling that crab claw Aranka, where the animation in that fight is just beautiful. It is just beautiful. I mean, I definitely liked Hisagaya's weapons. Heck, it made me kind of wish that Tenten would get a weapon like that and fight like that for Naruto, but let's see. But anyway, let's see. Yu Yu Hakusho takes the cake. Granted, when it starts off, I suppose the animation is a little bit clunky, but when it starts entering more towards the Dark Tournament, the animation gets much better. It flows much better. Not to mention, I think the anime for Yu Yu Hakusho uses different styles to its advantages for how it flows the animation, the fighting styles, and even the flashes of lights, and even the movements. Granted, so, let's see, it's used a variety of techniques for it all. Heck, even the sort of like repeated GIF kind of like fighting scenes that look kind of similar to some Dragon Ball fight scenes look much better than what the Dragon Ball animes of the past and even today in many ways. And I'm thinking like, holy heck, man, this is a Studio Period property.
Yeah.
Now I can understand. This is seriously Studio Period. My God. Now I'm starting to see why Kishimoto might have been interested in this studio to begin with, and even Kubo. Why they might have just had their mangas done by this studio. I can see why people would like, oh my God. This is probably why I can see why they have this studio's doing this animation. And it's like, what the heck happened? Because now you got like filler Naruto, filler Bleach, and for you guys, Tokyo Ghoul.
Oh, don't mention that. And we have an anime coming out too that I'm not specifically
excited.
And I guess Black Clover as well.
It took 12 chapters to be covered in 12 episodes. Go figure.
Yeah, right.
It's not even a monthly series, guys.
No, it isn't.
Oh my God.
Well, you
and let me say this right now. The only good thing Studio Period has done so far is Akatsuki no Yona. That's it.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. Oh, I know. That's the only last good thing. There's another good thing, but it's a comedy, and it works easy with comedy.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to battle or anything else, it's been a while. It's been too long. Way too long.
Definitely.
Yeah, not since probably the early Naruto and Bleach days, I guess. Because I will admit the animation, for the most part, back then was pretty good. But let's see, despite a few biasness with Hinata.
Well, there's that.
There's that.
Oh, and the filler arcs they were doing. And the filler arcs.
There's definitely that.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, no. But anyway. But yeah, we all agree. Anyway, I suppose the next question is, which series would you like to see a continuation of?
Well, actually, before we get to that one, I wanted to go ahead and get the author stuff out of the way real quick. So, who do you think is the better author out of the two? Now, for me, even though I like some of the things Kubo does, I would have to say Togashi takes the cake for me.
Let's see. I have to admit, I think in terms of writing, Togashi is definitely the better one because I think he's a better understanding of the human nature, human characteristics, and the complexities of of his stories and all that stuff.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
and it's not just for Yu-Yu Hakusho, it's also for Hunter x Hunter too. Like it definitely shows in that also.
Even though his art style has gotten much weaker over the years, you kind of wish that he would find someone that has a similar art style to him and have him do the art for the rest of Hunter x Hunter while he writes. But you can understand why he wants to draw and continue the series the way he's usually done. But yeah, definitely, he is definitely the better author.
Togashi for me, definitely. You can't compare with the Hunter x Hunter, especially with the hiatus, the back pain, the Dragon Quest. You can't compare it to that one. I'm going to compare it with just how he is, how he's still written. And again, when he comes back to do Hunter x Hunter, it's still damn good. It's still solid A quality right there.
I mean, it's pretty much one of the reasons why people, despite the constant hiatus, keep coming back to this series.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it's coming back this month.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see. It's kind of what he meant by, let's see, we're still more mangas by the end of the year because Japan has a sort of different calendar to Europe and America.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yep.
So that's in terms of our favorite authors. Not favorite authors, but which one's the better one? And we all unanimously agree that it's Togashi. Not to say that Kubo isn't a good writer, because he can be. It's just that I feel there are just certain aspects of what Kubo does that you're like, okay, you probably could have done that a little bit better. And the only thing I know from Kubo's side of things is that there's a lot of editorial interferences from what I've heard from over the years. And that's kind of what affected like Bleach's decline from Soul Society, but that's the only thing I know.
For Bleach, it's like too much editors ruined the series. Well, with Kishimoto, good editors gone, ruined the series. Mm-hmm. That's the joke. So, I suppose it depends if you get the right editor. Really.
Definitely. And you know what? With what Kubo had to do with Zombie Powder, and I've only read like the first couple volumes, but Kubo can show that he can deliver somewhat of a solid story. So when it comes to his one shot, that's again like the next thing that he's gonna do, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he's done since Bleach and Zombie Powder, and if that's evolved at least with the one shot. So that's all. That's kind of what I have to say when it comes to Kubo. And going from there, I think we can talk about. And I want to change up the question a little bit. Because I know I said which series would you like to see a continuation of, and for Bleach, you could kind of have a continuation with the kids, sure, but I guess you could kind of have that as like another Boruto effect-ish thing, I guess.
Oh dear Lord, no.
But I think I'm changing the question because we're having a Yu Hakusho special coming out. So the question is going to be, what do you guys expect from the special?
I expect everybody gets killed off because that will make everybody rage, and they want to probably think, "Oh, let's act like this special never existed."
So pretty much like the same reaction to The Last Jedi.
Well, sure, let's go with that.
Let's see, but let's see. Well, it depends on which character they're going to focus on, and it also depends on how old the characters are going to be. Let's see. If it's going to be, if it's going to be like them as adults, I feel like it's going to be more character-driven kind of thing. Whereas when they're younger, I'm not sure. It might be a bit more action thing. I could also possibly see a sort of, who knows? They might even do a special where he finally confesses to his sister Yukina that brother, and we might finally get that Kurobara reaction to like, Hiei and Yukina are siblings. Because I want to see how he reacts to that, because we never find that reaction in the end.
It took a damn decade just to get that, but...
True.
Yeah. I mean, come on, give us this. Give us that. But out of curiosity, is this special done by Studio Period?
I'm not exactly sure. I think it is. But if it is, I
And
wanted
put
to.
every tiny sense in there.
Well, yeah, that and I. Here's the thing: you cannot do this Yu Yu Hakusho special without the Yu Yu Hakusho team. They have to be the ones on board this.
Let's see. You better hope that's the case, because if not, then oh dear lord.
Then we'd be a little concerned. But if it's from the same director and his team that did both Bleach and Yu Yu Hakusho, fine, I'll take it. I'll be completely fine with that.
Mhm.
So then we get to the final question. Similar to the last Manga Wars podcast, who would win in a one-on-one fight? Yusuke or Ichigo?
I think Ichigo for being like a Dragon Ball Z meets swords.
But in terms of raw power, I'd definitely say it would probably be Ichigo, because Ichigo's broken. But in terms
Yeah,
of
you gotta remember, he's a jack of all trades.
yeah,
He
let's see.
is.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, he's a Soul Reaper with Fullbringer powers, with Hollow powers, and Quincy powers.
Definitely.
All four of the main series powers. Let's see, but anyway. But in terms of like personal hand-to-hand combat, that kind of thing, I'd definitely say Yusuke would probably win.
Well, yeah, he probably would just use shotgun, and that would be the end of it.
Mhm.
But I was more time into like punching, kicking, and fisting, and maybe even sword fighting.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
What do you think, Artu? See,
I think he's
Artu.
fucked it. Where's Luke?
Yeah, he probably wouldn't Force Awakens. I'm like, okay, I don't
I no
Let's
longer
do-
want to be here. There we go.
There we go.
language R2. Shit.
Jeez.
Okay.
Damn.
That's a lot.
Yeah. He's got a cheeky personality.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Mhm. And sometimes it makes noise when he should not.
Yeah. I would definitely
Shut
say, as far as like fisticuffs go, I would give it to Yusuke, but raw strength and power, Ichigo.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much all I gotta say as far as like this particular Manga Wars episode goes. Making an announcement as to what the next Manga Wars is gonna be. This one's gonna be kind of interesting because it's gonna be Full Metal Alchemist versus Pandora Hearts.
Okay. Well, I guess I know what series I need to start reading then. Pandora's Hearts.
Mhm.
Yeah, same here.
Specifically the manga.
Good job.
Okay, this is the manga. All right.
Yeah.
How many chapters is it by any chance?
Oh,
More than
104, I think. 104 or 114, but they're monthly.
The
Okay.
monthly length.
Okay, fair enough.
And yeah, aside from that, guys, that's pretty much all I got to say. Again, when it comes to this episode of Manga Wars, Sparda and Blue Star, it was really great having you guys on board again for the second episode, especially when it comes to Yu Yu Hakusho and Bleach, having that little debate.
Mm-hmm. Granted, Yu Yu Hakusho ended up being the victor, but see, there's still a few things that Bleach was probably better at. But hey,
A few things, but I, in a way, it did feel a little one-sided. I'll say that.
let's see if that will be the case with Fullmetal Alchemist and Pandora Hearts.
You'll be a little surprised, since I've read both series. So
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'll take your word for it, because it seems very hard to see any series at the moment, from my point of view, at the moment, that could top Fullmetal Alchemist.
mm-hmm.
That's regarded as one of the greats.
Definitely. And with that being said, guys, that's pretty much it. I'm LuckyRave.
Sparda3g.
And BlueStarSaber and R2D2.
And we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.